Star Wars: The Jedi Path. Introduction to the Jedi Order. The Jedi Code. For 40 years, the Jedi Code has been my focus, as it will become yours. It is the philosophy upon which stands the Jedi Order. It is a pledge of protection to the citizens and inhabitants of the Republic. It is an encapsulation of our relationship with the Force. As a Jedi, you must be faithful to the spirit of the Code. Every day you must ask yourself, do I understand it? In its classical form, as described by Harmonix Retonica, during the early Mandoran period, the Code consists of 5 core precepts. There is no emotion, there is peace. This principle guides all meditations and interactions with all others. It reaffirms the Jedi ideal to act without recklessness and to view the actions of others through the pure lens of the unifying force. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. Those who don't understand this basic precept are quick to fear, and fear is path to the dark side. The archives represent the greatest collection of knowledge in the galaxy. There is no passion, there is serenity. A subtle exploration of the first precept, this reminder to act dispassionately in every deliberation extends to personal obsessions and is a reminder not to alleviate the self above the mission. There is no chaos, there is harmony. Those who cannot see the threads uniting all life view existence as a random and without purpose. The Jedi perceive the structure and the will of the many galaxies. There is no death, there is the Force. All things die, but the Force lives on. As beings who exist as shades of the Force, the end of our existence in this form is not to be overly mourned. We are part of an energy larger than ourselves, and we play roles in a cosmic fabric that outstrip the incarnate of understanding. The Upper Mandoran and Dragulch transcriptions add more and controversial tenets, but the Jedi need only to remember the core teachings to live their lives as gifted yet humble defenders of justice. The history of the Jedi Order. The Force is timeless, but we Jedi have not always been present to interpret its teachings. Centuries before the founding of the Republic, our predecessors first heard the Force's call in the deep core world of Tython. The seers of Tython knew the energy field as the Ashla, but understood it in much the same way we do today, as a source of wisdom, a regenerative pool from which to draw strength, and a way to move objects without touching them. Yet those seers who used their abilities in the service of hatred and greed fell into darkness. The Force Wars of Tython are the earliest recorded conflicts between the light and the dark, battles that would be mirrored over the centuries as the Jedi and Sith crossed blades. The Force Wars were fought with swords, their metal blades force enhanced for strength and sharpness. For even at this stage, the Jedi forebears had discovered it difficult to wield a weapon that does not act as if it is an extension of one's own body. With technology from Offworlders, the earliest lightsabers came into existence and became the symbols of the Order. From Tython, the first Jedi Knights spread into the galaxy as proactive defenders of the light, settling on Ossus near Hutt Space. When the Galactic Republic announced its peaceful formation in the core worlds, the Jedi Knights vowed to defend its ideals of exploration, knowledge, and justice. Ossus remained the center of the Order, but during the Great Sith War, the explosion of the Kron supernova scoured the surface of this proud planet. Those few treasures that could be saved found a new home in Coruscant's Jedi Temple. On many occasions, war darkened our doors, including the infamous sacking of Coruscant by the Sith, which left the temple a smoking battleground. Our resilience saw us through. The Order has at last defeated the Sith, following a war that lasted 1,000 years. We now look to guide the Republic into its golden age. Structure of the Jedi Order. Like armies and governments, the Jedi Order follows a hierarchy to aid in the flow of command. Though we are all equals in the Force, the more senior members offer an expertise that deserves respect by those who have not yet achieved such a station. Number 1. Jedi Ranks. Jedi Initiate. The youngest members of the Jedi Order. They achieve their rank when they're old enough for individual instruction, which for humanoids can be as young as the age 2. Training occurs in the Jedi Temple under the guidance of the staff and using the resources in the archives. 2. Jedi Padawan. Initiates who, at the age of adolescence, 12 to 14 standard years or so, are chosen by a knight or master for apprenticeship. Their training largely occurs off-world. 3. Jedi Knight. Padawans who have passed the trials are no longer bound to a master. They are free to travel the galaxy in the service of the Order and to take on their own apprentice. Number 4. Jedi Master. Those who have trained a Padawan to knighthood or have demonstrated the deepest understanding of the Force and the Jedi Order and joined the ranks of the Jedi Council. Grand Master is an honorific bestowed on only a few members. The Jedi are more than 10,000 strong. Governance of the Order falls to 4 councils, one for each spire, crowning our temple's corners. The Council of First Knowledge guards our archives and generously distributes its insights to our youngest initiates. The Council of Reconciliation engages in peaceful diplomacy to end conflicts. The Council of Reassignment oversees the Jedi Service Corps, managing the careers of those who do not pass their trials to become Padawans or Knights. The High Council is the final authority on all matters of the Order. It is made up of our bravest champions and wisest minds. Under the guidance of the High Council, the traditions of the Jedi Order will endure for thousands of generations. Jedi Initiate. Joining a clan. This volume is an instructional guide to your life in the Jedi Temple and the service that awaits you when you leave. Heed the wisdom in these pages, but most importantly, pay attention to your teachers. Force instruction is held during morning sessions, history and politics at midday, and physical training in the afternoon. In addition, students must engage in 5 mandatory meditation sessions a day. Younglings is what many will call you, including your instructors. Your youth fills us with hope. Your developing skills fills us with pride. You are the future of the Order, so do not take offense when we point out your age. Take pride in your rank, for you are Jedi Initiates. You do not face your challenges alone. All Jedi Initiates are assigned a family that will surround you from the moment the Sunstone wakes you to the moment you drift to sleep on your mat. For most of you, your clan was selected before you reached the age of 3, or reached your species equivalent in maturity. The Jedi fosterers who watched over you in the infancy foresaw where you would belong. If you are of the Bear Clan, you are brave. No enemy is too fearsome for you to defeat. If you are of the Dragon Clan, you are tenacious. Nothing can make you back away if you do not will it. If you are of the Katarn Clan, you are stealthy. You draw the Force around yourself as a cloak, taking footsteps in silence. If you are of the Bergufta clan, you are loyal. Your heart will lead you forward when the way is dark. If you are of the Squall clan, you are swift. Your tread keeps you many steps ahead of your foes. If you are of the Haloist clan, you hold great insight. Learn well the lessons of the temple's lore keepers, and no secret will remain unlocked to you. These and other temple clans are the roots of the tree that sustain us in an order. Those of you brought to the temple later in your childhood were assigned to a clan upon your arrival. You must never feel an outsider, and any reassignment requests to alternate clans should not be taken only after most serious meditation. These are your colleagues in the Force, closer than any brother or sister. Until you are chosen as a Padawan learner, you will sleep, eat, train, and grow with your clan. Jedi initiates, never forget the bonds you make here. Attire and comportment. Younglings who have grown up within the temple hardly need guidance on what to wear. You've been wearing a uniform since you could stand. The dress of a Jedi initiate is essentially that of a Jedi Padawan, Knight, or Master. Tan or gray tunic, boots, belt, everything but the robe. The attire is not exactly the same as that worn by your elders, but it will identify you as a Jedi. When you finally step outside these walls to walk the galaxy, the same clothes you consider ordinary will be a symbol. People will approach you looking for wisdom. Others will beg you to fight their enemies, and others will attack you. Your uniform defines you. Wear it well and wear it with pride. When you sleep, fold it and place it at the foot of your mat. When you sweat through it after lightsaber training, wash it. When your boots are scuffed, polish them. Don't ask the droid to polish them yourself. A dirty or wrinkled uniform will get you a reprimand from your instructor. But if that's your only reason for taking care of one of your side possessions, you don't appreciate what you have here in the temple. For those of you who are crystalline or gas-based, or have a body structure that discourages standard clothing, you will wear a sash, at the very least. Take care of it. I'm a recruiter. I've brought hundreds of Force sensitives to the temple. Some of these younglings have already begun their first lives and were accustomed to soft fabrics, righteous colors, and endless choices. All the indulgences of the outsiders who value self over service. For these younglings, it can be hard to make the transition. Always remember that being a Jedi also means looking the part. Your attire is an outward sign of your commitment and a constant reminder of your lifelong calling. The 3 Pillars of the Jedi. The 3 Pillars of the Jedi, Force, Knowledge, and Self-Discipline, encompass all we do as Jedi and reinforce the precepts of the Jedi Code. Because the Force is in all things, it is rightfully set as the first pillar. The first pillar, the Force. If you young students know anything, you know this. The Force is an energy field created by all living things. Even the Pally vendor on the Mega Block corner can recite that. It's a droid's definition. We Jedi are blessed with the gift of swimming in the Force in our every moment, breathing it, tasting it, riding its currents to our unique destinies. For the Jedi, the universe is never cold and directionless. The Force gives us purpose and compels us to share our gifts with others. Master Bowspritz will teach you of the midi-chlorians in our cells that channel the Force's energy. I urge you not to think too much on this necessarily biological symbiosis, but to instead cast your focus wider. After all, we do not drink the bowl, but the soup contained with it. The Force is bigger than all of us, but expresses itself in two aspects. The living Force is raw and close at hand. It is the life energy tingling around you when you pass among plants and animals in the walk through a jungle. When beings die, you sense the living Force. When many die at once, the loss of their energy may shock you, even knock you out. All of your tangible Force abilities, such as running, jumping, heightened senses, moving objects, or soothing the emotions of others, are techniques by which we become agents of the living Force. The unifying Force is a vast cosmic power. You may not sense it yet, but with patience and insight you will. The unifying Force is the stars and the galaxies, the rippling surface of space and time. It is this voice that whispers of your destiny, and make no mistake, the Force does have a will. To commune with the unifying Force is to temporarily leave your body behind, allowing you to walk in the past or see the future. Some of the ancients believed it is possible to even transcend death. What is the dark side? As Jedi initiates, you are young and have yet to have experienced the temptations of the dark side. But take heed, for nothing else has the same potential to ruin your good works and good name. You already know of the Force as omnipresent, simultaneously existing as both a personal energy and as an imposing power through its living and unifying aspects. The dark side is not some missing piece. Don't be tricked into seeking it. The Force is a mountain rising from the water. The dark side is merely the submerged, scum-covered underside. If you choose to dive, the slime will trap and drown you. Passion lines the path to the dark side and must be avoided. Fear, anger, and hate are strong passions that will cause you to lose focus and to find appeal in the easy pleasures of the dark side. Love is also a strong passion and equally dangerous. Those who obsess over a parent, child, or lover devote all their energies towards a special object of their focus. The Jedi must serve all, not a select few. Should the urge to contact your birth families or form romantic attachments emerge, please consult your master. To dwell in the dark will lead to suffering. Attachments will cause you to lose sight of your path and are cause for expulsion from the Order. If you spent time in the Jedi archives, then you know the ancient history of the Order. Before the formation of the Jedi Order, more than 24,000 years ago, the people of Tython recognized the presence of an anomalous yet benevolent energy field. They called it the Ashla, and learned to use it in the same ways your instructors are passing on to you. Yet some seem determined to ignore the will of the Ashla. They allowed emotions to interfere with their actions. They listened to the subtle whispers of the shadowed, submerged part of the Force. They called it the Bogan, and sank into its darkness. They never resurfaced. Using control abilities. As Jedi initiates, you will learn and hone many abilities that draw upon the Force. These abilities follow three themes: control, sense, and alter. Control is centered on one's own body and is the focus of training for initiates. If you cannot remain in control of yourself, you will never be able to extend the Force and command your surrounding environment. Sense and alter abilities will be the focus of your training later, when you are more skilled. The abilities that fall under the discipline of control are basic skills, but improvement on these skills is necessary for the remainder of your life. Used properly, your control abilities will allow you to survive injury and decay extending your service to the Order by decades. Tubiness, or energy absorption, is the ability to channel or diffuse potential harmful radiation by using the benevolent energy of the Force. It can be as simple as shielding the skin from excessive sunlight, or as advanced as deflecting a blaster bolt with an outstretched palm, something that not even I have mastered. Curete Salva is a family of abilities that emphasizes the healing of self. When you draw on the Force to refresh yourself after Master Vonk's combat sessions, you are performing the most basic positions of Karato. As Jedi Knights, you'll be expected to master the facet of control to heal your own injuries, to flush mind-altering drugs from your bloodstream, to locate and burn out clusters of disease, to nullify the effects of poison, and to reduce your perception of pain when true healing is not possible in the moment. The Jedi hibernation trance is the most extreme position of Corretto and can be used as the last resort to sustain your vital signs until healers can intervene. Altis Supor is the traditional term for the ability to increase one's focus on the Force. You can practice this self-directed ability during each of your 5 daily meditations. In time, you will learn to merge into the Force so that you can become nearly invincible to others. The second pillar, knowledge. Resources of the Jedi Temple. The pillar of knowledge is the most important of the 3 pillars you will study during your time as an initiate. As chief librarian and the caretaker of the first knowledge, I know this better than any of my colleagues. If not for the histories of the Order recorded in our holocrons, what would Master Mandiblu know of the Force beyond her vague feelings? Without the diagrams of combat techniques in our archives, how could Master Vinak know the proper way to instruct you in Sicho? As younglings, you should be well aware of the instructional tools we have in the temple, particularly those in the first knowledge quarter, where you'll spend most of your time. Yet, I am not blind to the inattentiveness and slothfulness that plagues some students. If you have not paid attention to date, I trust you will do now. Ignorance is shameful only if you choose not to correct it, and any question can be answered in the archives or holocron vaults. The archives are the central knowledge base for the entire Order and contain more data that you could absorb in 1,000 lifetimes. Its 4 wings are classified thusly: the history and philosophy of the Jedi Order, the physical sciences, the geography and political structure of the galaxy, and the nature and diversity of living things. To locate a specific data card, query one of the droids, or ask me or a member of my staff. Next to the archives and within the tower above the first knowledge quarter, you will find the holocron vaults, which contain the self-recorded teachings of some of the greatest Jedi thinkers of the last 24 millennia. Don't overlook other sources that surround you. The statues of the Jedi thinkers that line the hallways should be known to you by sight, and the tapestries you pass on your way to mealtime depict battles and revolutions you can research further in the archives. Even a place like a room of 1,000 fountains can provide you with an education in botany. Never neglect your mind in favor of your body or spirit. The galaxy, stars, and planets. As younglings, your life is contained within the temple. Until you're selected as a Padawan, your trips outside the Jedi Temple will be rare and short. So to prepare for that day, you'll need to study up. Beware the Jedi archives don't tell you the whole story. The good news is you're already at the corner of it all. Coruscant is the capital of the Republic and the prime planet of the core worlds, located just north of the unwelcoming deep core. The next 2 regions, the colonies and the inner rim, mark the outermost limits of what most citizens consider civilization. There's a lot more to see in the galaxy, but exploring it may mean stepping out of your comfort zone. Beyond the inner rim is the expansion region, home to factory worlds that are mostly empty and decaying. Keep going and you'll pass the agricultural mid-rim on your way to the lawlessness of the outer rim territories. It's here that you'll find some of the galaxy's worst criminals, and it's here that skilled Jedi can make a difference. All this territory can be quickly traversed on the Hindarian Way, the Corellian Run, or the Palimnian Trade Route. Most of you won't get your own starfighter, but there's no shame in booking passage aboard a starliner. The Jedi are public servants after all. On the outer reaches of the galaxy is the untamed frontier of wild space, as well as the unknown regions, where hyperspace engines can't penetrate. There are many dangers in these sectors, but you must not fear them. As you grow, some of you may find yourselves assigned to a satellite training academy. Coruscant's Temple isn't the only facility for Jedi students, and some initiates and Padawans can learn more under a customized curriculum. Even masters like myself visit these sites from time to time. It's nice to have a friendly port to duck into when you're on the run from Zagarian pirates. The training academies on Camparus, Telos, and Abroski specialize in the data collection and analysis for budding geniuses. The Tython and the Aphelion academies promise deeper study of the Force for hopeful mystics. The academies on Reno and Hereth may be home for healers among you. And don't forget the Sakaro Academy for Jedi Guardians, an outpost of order in a decadent and lawless world. That's one of my favorites. Galactic Beastery. Be thankful you can sense the living force, young initiates. Outside the Jedi Temple, you will discover an infinite variety of life forms that contribute to the universal energy field. All of them are worthy of a Jedi's protection. Xenobiology is a fascinating specialization. Animals are what most call living creatures, not outwardly capable of speech or mathematics. As a Jedi, you will sense that this distinction isn't so simple. Most beasts do speak, if only among their own kind, and communicating in their tongue is a talent you can master. What follows is a sampling of the types of creatures you may encounter, but more information is always available in the archives. Creatures can be found to exist in nearly any environment. If there's one thing I'm certain of, it's that the Force will always find a way. Amid the towering ice crystals of the Megiddo, you'll find the Porticus candis, Megitan whiteworms, coiled in caves where their skin absorbs geothermal heat from the planet's core and converts it to food energy. The jungle world of Trokin hosts the Indactyl, a spiked insect that curls into a ball and impales its prey by rolling wildly through the undergrowth. As a Padawan, I once conducted a month-long study of the Jadkin needler crab, measuring its dart-firing accuracy and vastly improving the centuries-old data that was gathering just in the Jedi archives. For an illuminating example of pan-species cooperation, don't miss the moon of Akhenaut, where palm-sized furballs that I named the Okaris act as a predator warning system for thousands of other herbivores. Even deep space harbors life. You'll never forget your first glimpse of an exogarth or a giant Nebrae manta. All these creatures are bound together by one thing, the Force. If this was not your first thought, you might be in the wrong temple. Even life forms without midichlorians and cellular structures, such as the fractal Yurkins of Porgarciar, can touch its energy. Other creatures can do even more remarkable things, such as projecting bubbles that push the Force away. But the Council has quarantined such worlds, and full instruction on these creatures will come when you are older. The third pillar, self-discipline. Many of you initiates are all too eager to rush into this field of knowledge, for this is where you get to swing a lightsaber. But it is called the third pillar for a reason. Until you have demonstrated your connection to the Force and your willingness to study and learn, you will never be admitted into my class. For those of you who have passed that test, you will do well to remember that this pillar is self-discipline, not combat. It is impossible to wield a lightsaber without first mastering the action of your physical self. This is why we give initiates training sabers. By the time you build a real blade as a Padawan, you should have enough skill not to cut off your own arm. Meditation is the key to aligning your mind and body with the spirit and the will of the Force. As initiates, you should be meditating 5 times a day. That's not enough. Whenever you have a moment to yourself, even if you're standing outside a training chamber waiting for a session to begin, center yourself as you have been taught. The Force will rejuvenate your body and sharpen your mind even in brief moments. You can practice deeper states during your daily sessions. Try to achieve empty meditation, which purges your negative emotions and lets you step back from your attachments. Moving meditation is an awake state that reduces distraction and increases your focus on a task. You may find it improves your ability to repair a device, your skill in shifting through data in the archives, or your combat drills. Rising meditation broadens your connection to the Force to such a degree that you may find yourself levitating. In this state, you may hear the visions and prophecies of the unifying Force. Meditation is a daily expression of self-discipline. If you're having trouble isolating your mind, you can find several meditation chambers inside the temple that shut out all external stimuli. You may also prefer the room of 1,000 fountains, where the sound of falling water is calming and centering. Introduction to the lightsaber. The lightsaber is the weapon of a Jedi Knight. None of you have reached knighthood, so for your safety as well as the safety of those around you, Jedi initiates are armed with training sabers. Training sabers are standardized. You will not build a unique lightsaber until you are a Padawan, so acquaint yourself with the components and functions of this simple model. A training saber consists of a hilt and an activation stud that, when pressed, extends the blade. The size of the hilt and the length of the blade are variable based on the combatant's age and size. Inside the hilt is a crystal, lens, and emitter matrix to focus the blade, and a power cell to energize it. In another class, you will learn to disassemble and reassemble this saber, but in this class, you'll simply learn how to use it. The energy blade of a training saber will not cut. However, it is still a weapon, and it must be handled like the real thing. A hit from a training saber will stun nerve endings, burn skin, and singe fur. You will undoubtedly be hurt in your practice sessions, but a sore arm is better than a missing arm. The uses of a lightsaber are many, for it is a tool not limited to combat. A lightsaber can form a shield to intercept and deflect incoming blaster fire. It can cut through bulkheads and archways. It can evaporate liquids and illuminate dark passageways. During the hours you're allowed to handle a training saber, treat it with respect. One day this weapon will save your life. However, until you can complete the 7 cadence with your strikes coming within a hand's breadth of your opponent, you are not ready for a real saber. To reach that point, you must immerse yourself in the Force and practice, practice, practice. Form 1 Combat. There are 7 forms of lightsaber combat. As Jedi initiates, you will concentrate on only one. Form 1, or Si-Cho, is the oldest of all forms and the first to evolve from the ancient discipline of sword fighting. Also known as the Determination Form, or the Way of the Sarlacc, Form 1 teaches the basic moves of attack and parry, focusing on the humanoid body target zones: left side, right side, head, and legs. It doesn't matter if your body is spherical, segmented, or serpentine. If you can manipulate a saber, you can master Form 1. Form 1 is the foundation upon which the remaining forms build. It is not the best style for blaster deflection or for lightsaber to lightsaber dueling, but its superior all-around form you can fall back in the heat of battle. Thus, you must demonstrate a mastery of this form before you can continue. During classes, you will run velocities, a quick sequence of moves executed against an opponent until one of you concedes with a call of Sola. During such contests, victory can be quickly achieved with a disarming strike or a shim. This inflicts a superficial wound on your opponent, causing him or her to drop the weapon or to be temporarily numb-limbed. Because of training Sabers' inability to cut through body parts, this is the only one of the marks of contact you will learn at this stage. Deflecting the bolts fired at a remote is another focus of daily drilling, one that will prepare you for Form 5, should you choose to specialize in that style. Although I am a Jedi Battle Master, I must stress that aggression is never the way of the Jedi. More fundamental than even Form 1 is Form 0, finding a non-violent solution to any problem you encounter. In the words of the Tainawese Sky Judge Koloff, the best blades are kept in their sheaths. The Initiate Trials. When you reach the end of your years as a Jedi Initiate, you will no longer be younglings, and can no longer remain at the temple. Without growth, there is death. All of you must pass from Initiate to a new level of service. To reach this new level, you must complete the Initiate Trials. You should be well prepared for them at this stage. 1. You must demonstrate your knowledge and understanding of the Jedi Code. 2. You must also demonstrate self-discipline through meditation and lightsaber combat. 3. You must prove that the Force flows through you and that you are not a rock stubbornly blocking its current. All of these things are to be expected of you who are to be completing the training of a Jedi Initiate, but not all of you will pass through the same place. Some of you will graduate from Initiate to Padawan. This will see you apprentice to a Jedi Knight or Master, and it is a necessary step in becoming a Knight or a Master yourself. But competency at the Initiate Trials is not enough to earn a Padawan apprenticeship. You must forge a bond with a Knight or Master, and some of you will discover that the Force does not wish you to follow such a path. Meditate on it now, so you'll be prepared should a moment come to pass. You have all pledged to serve the Republic, and the members of the Jedi Service Corps are no less Jedi than those who roam the stars to defend the weak. If you're not taken on as an apprentice Padawan, a position at the Agricultural Corps or the Educational Corps will allow you to continue to follow the principles you have sworn to uphold and serve the Republic as you have vowed. Some of you may not follow either path. Regretfully, the Council may decide the path of a Jedi is not for you. If you arrive at this decision yourself, then it is the Force speaking to you, and you are not meant to follow the Jedi path. Should this be your destiny, remember your training as you build a new life and seek out opportunities to be of benefit to yourself and others. Padawan. Becoming an apprentice. As an initiate, you have learned much in the ways of the Jedi, but worlds of experience remain a mystery to you. As you progress from an initiate to Padawan, communal instruction from the temple's teachers is replaced by one-on-one guidance from a master. Not every initiate will become a Padawan, but those who do will follow the call of the Force into a new level of service. When you reach the appropriate age, for most humanoids between approximately 12 to 15 standard years, and have passed the Initiate Trials, you are eligible to be selected by a Jedi Knight or Master to become an apprentice. One way in which you can attract the attention of a potential master is through the Apprentice tournament. Each year, the temple holds a lightsaber contest for Padawans, which has at times included a free-for-all round, or contestants held underwater or in a zero-G chamber. Although the tournament winner will undoubtedly receive an apprenticeship, the tournament's true purpose is to demonstrate your individual style so that a visiting master might assess your abilities and potential to be a good fit as his or her Padawan. For initiates who aren't gifted in combat, the Apprentice tournament may not be the best validation of your skills. Jedi counselors who are looking for new Padawans often forego the tournament in favor of asking the temple staff to point out promising scholars. Thus, if you are hoping for a good recommendation, it is best to keep that in mind when dealing with your instructors. The council is generally not involved in pairing of a master and a Padawan. The Force will act as a guide, expressing itself through this bond, and rarely needs outside help. However, Jedi Seers have at times perceived destinies that require a particular arrangement of players. In those decisions, the will of the Force, and by extension the will of the Council, must be honored. The Council's word is final. Working with your master. As a Padawan learner, you will venture into the galaxy far beyond Coruscant. Take this opportunity to evolve into the Force and absorb the wisdom of a knight or a master who has long served the Republic. The life of a Padawan is radically different from that of his initiate. Your activities as a youngling were shared and structured, but as a Padawan, you will be executing open-ended missions and will be expected to keep up with Jedis who outmatch you in every way. It is common for new Padawans to be tempted by self-pity or to feel inadequate at the task at hand. These feelings will recede after a few months. After you have established a rapport with your master, you will be able to redirect your focus from yourself to those you were meant to serve. The life of a Jedi is one of service to the citizens of the Republic, and your apprenticeship is designed to prepare you for this life. Outsiders may look at you with confusion, hostility, or awe, but you must focus on your mission. Your guide through all this will be your master. Listen to your master's teaching even when they seem contrary to what you learned at the temple. You are an apprentice for a reason. If you do not seize every learning opportunity, you will never reach knighthood. Some Padawans will find themselves apprenticed to a master who does not share the same language, species, or even the same basic body configuration. These Padawans are most fortunate. An apprenticeship is for learning and for opportunities to recognize life in all its shapes merely affirm the Jedi's central mission. Whether your master is a mystic, a scholar, or a war-scarred veteran of a fight against a Sith, you must mold yourself into whatever role is needed for the mission. You are a Padawan. You must be prepared to do whatever is asked of you. Padawan attire and conduct. Much of the Jedi's success hinges precariously on the public's perception of the Order. Please don't make my job as a recruiter harder by looking sloppy and slothful. Your braid is the most significant sign of your status as a new Padawan. For species with hair or fur, your tightly wove braid is grown behind the left or right ear, while the rest of your hair is kept closely trimmed. It may also be adorned with beads or weavings. This braid marks you as a Jedi Padawan. It will be removed when you pass to knighthood. Species that don't grow hair may instead wear a woven braid of canvas or cloth around their wrist, neck, ear, or horn. Other alternatives have emerged over the centuries. Ikati Padawans can wear a metal circlet over the tip of their cranial horn. Seleuci Padawans can bisect their left cheek with a facial tattoo. Swoke Padawans can implant a medallion into the flesh beneath their foreheads. Your uniform is another outward symbol of your status. It is made of humble, tough fabric, similar to what you wore as an initiate, but its hooded robe makes it more suited for travel and exposure to the elements. Your Padawan outfit also includes a utility belt with pouches containing food capsules and a comlink, as well as other mission-specific tools issued by the temple's quartermaster. As a Padawan, you reflect upon not only your master, but also upon the entire Jedi Order. Remember to carry yourself with calm professionalism, to answer all questions directed your way, to be fair but firm, and to stay far, far away from cantinas and spice dens. The Reassignment Council. Everybody thinks they know what a Jedi is, that we all serve in the army of light and fight the Sith Lords, or that we're all about lightsaber battle masters and starfighter aces. It just ain't so. Jedi can serve the Republic in other ways, too. The Jedi Service Corps is an honorable alternative for any graduating initiate, and he or she should be proud to serve among its ranks. When most initiates hit their adolescence, they seek to pair up with masters to begin their Padawan apprenticeships. But if you are not selected, then what? You can try again the following season, but eventually the temple instructors may tell you that you've run out of chances, and then the Reassignment Council steps in. The Jedi Service Corps consists of 4 branches: the Agricultural Corps, the Medical Corps, the Educational Corps, and the Exploration Corps. The Reassignment Council, which assigns candidates to one of these 4 branches, manages the careers of these Jedi once they have been placed. Not every member of the Jedi Service Corps failed to become a Padawan. Many Knights, Masters, and Padawans choose to work with the Corps because of their special talents. Enjoying the best of both worlds, you might say. Still, the majority of those in the Jedi Service Corps receive their postings from the Reassignment Council after several unsuccessful attempts at the initiate trials. A career in the Jedi Service Corps lets you uphold the principles of the Republic in important ways. Some Jedi campaigns for posting within a certain branch of the Corps in order to follow particular passions. It's a long and noble tradition. The Agricultural Corps. The largest of the Jedi Service Corps branches, the Agricultural Corps, uses the Force to nurture and care for green and growing things. Accordingly, we are affiliated with the Republic Agricultural Administration, but we're Jedi, not bureaucrats. Sometimes you'll have to remind your peers of that fact. The principle behind the Agricultural Corps is that the living force exists in all things and responds to your will. Our enemies aren't exactly Sith Lords, but they're the foe of life just the same. Drought, blight, disease, and imbalance all work against the planet's unhealthy biosphere and can be mitigated through a central application of the Force. The Agricultural Corps is headed by Jedi Council members and masters with a special affinity for this line of work. Lots of Hodin and Arthurians fill our ranks. Jedi initiates sometimes serve brief rotations within the Corps as part of their instruction in the living force. The majority of the Agricultural Corps consists of us lifers. Most of our work is based in Silich or in the string of the core worlds making up the Silich Ag circuit. But there are others stationed in the mid-rims and on major food processing worlds like Yuko. Jedi geologists are a specialty branch of the Agricultural Corps, originating out of the need to study the composition of planetary crusts on unfamiliar worlds. The most important quality for Agricultural Corps members to possess is patience. Plants take a long time to grow, and rot takes a long time to eradicate. If meditation was your favorite subject in the temple, then you may find the Agricultural Corps a fitting service for your passion. The Agricultural Corps communes with the Force and encourages the growth of life by increasing Republic food production. Just don't take it too hard if sometimes the public forgets you're a Jedi too. The Medical Corps and the Educational Corps. The second and third branches of the Jedi Service Corps are the smallest in terms of membership, because healing and scholarship are already widely practiced by many knights and masters. There isn't quite as much need for specialists. The Medical Corps is based right here in the Temple's first knowledge quarter. As part of the Halls of Healing, the Jedi Medical Corps Infirmary is one of the most advanced facilities in the Republic and is connected to the Galactic City Medical Center via private high-speed transport. Consequently, not all of its patients are Jedi. Critical cases are sometimes brought here to the MedCorps mini stations, particularly in the circle of Jedi healers who report directly to the Reassignment Council. The MedCorps is similar in function to the Agricultural Corps. Both groups use the Force to aid healing and encourage healthy cell growth. But because the MedCorps operates on intelligent beings, its members are also sent into war zones and disaster areas. Among the MedCorps' biggest assets is the healing crystals of fire. They're one of the Temple's most important mystical artifacts and are kept under constant guard by the Circle. It's said that the crystals can bring patients back from the brink of death when all else has failed. The Education Corps, or Ed Corps, consists of scholars, teachers, and archivists. All Jedi are expected to be teachers to some degree, but the EduCorps goes far beyond that. They work under the supervision of the Temple's chief librarian and spend most of their days cataloging and translating. No, these tasks don't go left to the droids. Uncovering the layers of information inside a holocron can only be done by a person with the Force. Some of the holocrons, data cards, and scrolls in our collection date from the era of Uasis and Tython, and they are still giving up their secrets after thousands of years of study. The Jedi Order enjoy the fruits of this effort, but too often the core of the Order doesn't realize where it comes from. Within the Jedi Service Corps, a sense of humility is a valuable trait. The Exploration Corps. The final branch of the Jedi Service Corps is the most far-flung. The Exploration Corps considers the whole galaxy its territory, and its members are rarely found in the Jedi Temple, save for the ranking masters who report to the Reassignment Council. Instead, small Explorer Corps outposts can be found in practically every Republic ordnance or regional depots, or ORDs, some of them dating back 10,000 years. These refueling and resupplying outposts are used for staging expeditions into nearby space. The mission of the Explore Corps is to uncover new planets, artifacts, species, creatures, and hyperroutes, and to assist any innocents they may find in their course of their adventure. At each ORD base, the Exploration Corps team operates a few long-range scout ships, each light on armaments but heavy on sensors and consumables. Members of the Exploration Corps are responsible for making first contact with any species that might join the Republic. It is a huge honor to represent the face of the Galactic Coalition. Not every species is friendly at first, so the Exploration Corps sees the most combat of any of the Jedi Service Corps. It also has the highest proportion of knights and masters serving in its ranks. Some masters specialize in the art of Force navigation, a technique that uses outward-directed meditation to smooth the tangles of hyperspace and penetrate territories believed to be off-limits. The Exploration Corps is slowly chipping away at the expanse of the unknown regions, one system at a time. In addition to managing the ORD bases, the Exploration Corps operates a number of Praxium ships. Initiates who move on to a career in the Exploration Corps will sooner or later find themselves aboard one of these mobile training academies, where they can continue with their education while helping out with long-term space missions. The Exploration Corps is affiliated with both the Republic Survey Corps and the Intergalactic Zoology Society. The Academy of the Jedi Archaeology is also affiliated with the Exploration Corps, whose members uncover relics and inscriptions that are then turned over to the Educational Corps for translation. Lightsabers, their construction and use. The act of constructing a lightsaber forever marks Padawans as members of the Jedi Order. The construction of a lightsaber is more than an act of loyalty to the organization that stood for 1,000 generations. It is an opportunity to make a saber of one's own. The Jedi strive for consistency in manner and dress, but they do not make rules for this most important weapon. Components. Your master should have taught you to collect the pieces that make up your lightsaber: the hand grip, the emitter matrix, the lens assembly, the power cell, and the focusing crystal. Let the Force guide your selection. Should a handle carved with grill wood or an unusually colored lens seem to speak to you, listen to that voice. Vision Quest. Unless your circumstances are unusual or desperate, you'll make your first saber in the crystal caves of Ilum. This Jedi planet is the source of crystals that emit bright green and brilliant blue plasma blades. Meditation will help you select the appropriate crystal. You must memorize this mantra. The crystal is the heart of the blade. The heart is the crystal of the Jedi. The Jedi is the crystal of the Force. The Force is the blade of the heart. All are intertwined. The crystal, the blade, the Jedi. We are one. During meditation, you may experience flashes of your future or insights into the structure of the universe. Achievement. The final step requires absolute concentration and is the reason behind the forced focus of isolation on Ilum. The pieces of the lightsaber hilt must be fused together on a molecular level. This is done through precise application of the Force. Fail to align them properly, and the saber may explode upon activation. More painful than the loss of your hand will be the sting of your failure. Lightsaber variants. It is rare for Padawans to construct non-standard lightsabers during their visionary experiences on Ilum. Often, a variant design doesn't emerge until much later, after years of experience spent analyzing one's own fighting style and evaluating deficiencies caused by that first effort. The curved hilt lightsaber is perhaps the least radical of all variants. Its extended handle accommodates a slight bend, seldom exceeding 30 degrees. This style is common among practitioners of Form 2 of lightsaber combat, who prefer its balance and weight and precision, handling for saber-to-saber dueling. The Shoto is a short saber with the blade extending perhaps half a meter. The Shoto is often wielded in the Jedi's offhand as a second blade. The Guard Shoto is carried by means of perpendicular handle, allowing for spins that put an opponent off balance, but put oneself at risk. I do not condone the use of a Guard Shoto. The Light Club is a giant-sized saber with a massive handle and a thick blade. Light clubs are often built by hooks or other Jedi of unusually large size. The dual-phased lightsaber uses focusing controls to shift between twin crystals, allowing a normal-sized blade to suddenly become twice as long. This is useful only for surprise attacks, and I have not found it's practical for running saber cadences. A familiar image from the last Sith War, the dual-bladed lightsaber, is known as a Sith weapon, but there is nothing inherently wicked about its design. Using one takes years of study, and few Jedi besides myself can instruct you. The lightsaber pike employs the same combat style as a dual-bladed saber. Both are staff weapons, but the pike has a shaft of saber-resistant metal and a short blade on only one end. The light whip is the most exotic of all weapons that use crystal energy technology. Instead of having a rigid blade, the light whip's energy tendrils is flexible and can be wielded to entangle or cut. Unless you are already an expert with traditional whips, you should not even attempt to hold a light whip. Lightsaber countermeasures. Most people believe a lightsaber can cut through anything. That misperception usually works to our advantage, but all Jedi should be aware of the natural limitations of energy blades. Substances that can be fashioned by our enemies into anti-lightsaber countermeasures are most dangerous. Study these and learn to recognize them on sight, and you just might prevent a nasty surprise during combat. Cortosis. This ore, mined on planets from Duro to Apatros, is the most widely available of all the countermeasures. When used to create a body of armor or an arm shield, it can deflect a blade or create a feedback loop, which can cause a blade to short out. Cortosis is brittle, so on rare occasions the power of your blow may crack that type of armor. Ultrachrome. This superconductive material is worn by the Brothers of Barbine, among others. The blade of the saber will diffuse across the surface of an ultrachrome shield, potentially melting its top layer, but an ultrachrome shield will stop any penetration strikes. Neuranium and Freak. These rare metals, when fashioned as shields or armor, can withstand a lightsaber strike. Neuranium can be chipped away over the course of a battle and eventually broken, but the time and effort required to do so may doom you. Mandalorian armor. Also called Barsik in Mandio, this creation of Mandalorian metallurgists remained the most effective saber countermeasure so far. Sabers can barely scratch it, and a Jedi facing a berserker wearing Mandalorian armor is advised to strike at the weak points on the neck and joints, or use the force shoves to keep the enemy off balance. Mandalorian iron is rarely shared with outsiders, and its scarcity is one of the Force's great blessings. The bones of some creatures, such as the Odarian on Felucia, or the carapaces of other creatures, such as the Tauzones or the fireworms, demonstrate a natural saber resistance. Scavengers willing to pick through carcasses can exploit these creatures by fashioning bones into jagged blades that can withstand a lightsaber blow, and by turning carapaces into crude shields. Lightsaber forms. There are 7 forms of lightsaber combat. Form 1 was the focus of your training as a youngling. Padawans must extend their combat skills by mastering one or more of the following forms. Form 2, Lightsaber Combat, Makashi. The second form of classical lightsaber combat, Makashi, is also known as the contentious form, or the way of the Yersuma, after a curious creature from the Inner Rim. This is the preferred style for lightsaber to lightsaber dueling, and is the most elegant of the 6 traditional forms. Makashi emphasizes precision strikes and well-balanced footwork. A Form 2 practitioner keeps both feet, one in front of the other, on a line and advances or retreats along this line, avoiding the leaps and acrobatics of Form 4. It is a one-handed style, thus an adherents prefer using well-balanced lightsabers, including curved hilt variants. A successful Form 2 duel is quickly ended by penetrating an opponent's defenses and landing a mark of contact or a disarming strike. Skilled duelists are proficient in 2 marks of contact. Sun Gem allows them to swiftly dislodge lightsabers with quick spinning moves or by striking and burning an enemy's fingers. Shayak consists of straight-ahead, piercing stabs that are a natural result of this stance. Form 2 duels are a respected tradition among those masters who have earned the honorific of Blade Master. Every year, during mid-year fit, Blade Masters exhibit their skills for their fellow Jedi in the exterior courtyard of the Jedi Temple. Marked by an opening salute and a blade flourish, duels are run until all challengers have been disarmed or have conceded. The use of Form 2 experienced a resurgence during the last war, when Jedi Knights found themselves facing armies of saber-wielding Sith. Mikashi's fluid attacks and feints provided a critical edge during these duels to the death. Fewer Padawans have elected to study Form 2 in the years following the defeat of the Sith at Rushan, because the odds of encountering a lightsaber-wielding enemy is now close to zero. However, I consider Form 2 the most disciplined of all forms, and I still encourage its study. Form 3, Lightsaber Combat, Surisu. The third form, Surisu, also known as the Resilience Form or the Way of the Mynock, is the ultimate expression of defense, and its masters are said to be impervious to all forms of attack. Those who wish to study Form 3 are advised to practice their meditation, for Surisu is the most inward directed of all forms. You are to be the calm eye of the storm as your enemy rages around you. Form 3 is the ideal lightsaber style for intercepting blaster fire and is common among Explorer Corps members and other Jedi who spend time on the Rim. A lone Jedi can withstand an ambush of 20 blaster-wielding thugs by dropping into moving meditation. By using this enlightened state, a Jedi can perceive the positions of each enemy and the moves necessary to intercept every bolt. Because this technique, the Circle of Shelter, is a precognitive state, prolonged use of it may open up a Jedi's mind to long-term visions. Therefore, when a Jedi is faced with a blaster-carrying brute, a deflecting slash is advised. This technique catches a single bolt and swats it aside, giving the Jedi an opportunity to advance before the attacker can get off a second shot. Bolts can be turned back on the same vector from which it came, but this precision move is more commonly used under Form 5. When using Form 3 to fight another saber-wielding enemy, Jedi should pull all moves close to the body and seldom make sweeps or lunges. This creates a strong defensive cocoon that makes it difficult for an enemy to land more than a glancing blow, but it means that a Form 3 master is unable to mount a counter-attack. Yet the minimalist defense preserves the Jedi's energy reserves while simultaneously tiring an opponent, and an exhausted enemy will eventually slip up, allowing a Form 3 master to score a victory. Form 4, Lightsaber Combat, Ataru. Ataru is the fourth form taught at the temple. It is also known as the Aggression Form, or the Way of the Hawkbat. Fittingly, its kinetic moves require its practitioner to stay almost constantly on the offense. I discourage its study among Padawans, whose youthful energy too often translates into sloppy executions of the Form 4 cadences. To an outsider, Form 4 appears to be a blur of lunges and leaps. Its acrobatic style is best practiced by Jedi who possess talents for enhancing their speed and stamina through the Force. Even so, Form 4 is exhausting and is best employed in short but devastating bursts. Thus, if you cannot find a way to penetrate your opponent's defenses after repeated efforts, it is best to withdraw from a fight you are unlikely to win. The moves of Ataru are numerous, and the style is more disciplined than its wild rush would indicate. Many moves are related to the falling leaf technique, which came into favor during the most recent war against the Sith. These include the Hawkbat Swoop. It's a surprise strike and quick withdrawal before the enemy has a chance to react. The Saber Swarm aims multiple short stabs at enemies to force them into a defensive posture. To accomplish any of these moves, the Form 4 practitioner must have mastered the footwork of Su-Ma. Unlike other, more rooted forms, a Taru requires Jedi to use all axis of motion within three-dimensional space. Jung Su-Ma as a rapid spin, Ton Su-Ma a somersault, and In Su-Ma a cartwheel. A skilled Jedi uses all three moves in conjunction with the Force to leap higher and jab faster than opponents can react, as well as to keep tired muscles energized until the end of battle. Form 4 is best used against a single opponent. Against multiple foes, a Jedi will need to adopt at least the pretense of defense, at which point a shift in Form 6 is advisable unless you are a true Ataru master. Form 5 Lightsaber Combat, Shen Gemso. The fifth of the traditional forms is known as the Perseverance form, or the Way of the Krayt Dragon. Its two aspects, Shen and Gemso, can be equally mastered by a Form 5 practitioner, but most Jedi express a preference for one or the other in the same way that most of us have a dominant hand with which we prefer to hold a saber. Form 5 is the most physically demanding of all combat styles. While Form 4 requires speed and agility, Form 5 requires strength. Jedi without the natural ability to overpower their opponents should study another form. Conversely, Jedi of towering stature and imposing muscular may choose to focus on Form 5, particularly because it requires less agility than other forms. The form came into existence through the efforts of Jedi Masters who believed that Form 3 Surisu did not allow sufficient opportunities for counterattacks. From this idea, they developed Shen, a style that deflected blaster fire but redirected the bolts back along the chosen vectors to take out attackers and other targets of opportunity. The Shen, barrier of blades technique, creates a tunnel of lightsaber energy to ricochet enemy fire in every direction for maximum damage. Gemso follows the same philosophy of turning an enemy's attack back on him or her, but is optimized for lightsaber to lightsaber combat. Its signature move is the Fluid Respo, which deflects a forceful enemy's attack and immediately counterattacks. The emphasis of Gemso remains strength, with violent blows, such as the falling avalanche or overhand blow to shatter armor that can penetrate any defense. Due to its resilience to dominating one's opponent, Form 5 has at times been considered an inappropriate discipline for Jedi. But those who could balance its intimidating aspects with the compassionate application of the Force may succeed in besting even their battle masters. Form 6 Lightsaber Combat, Naman. Naman, also called the Moderation Form and the Way of the Rancor, is the sixth traditional lightsaber form. In everyday parlance, it is known as the Diplomat's Form, for it is the style preferred by the Jedi Consulars who do not chosen to make a career out of combat. Form 6 is the most balanced of all styles. It is not as precise as Form 2, as defensive as Form 3, as kinetic as Form 4, nor as dominating as Form 5, but Form 6 draws from all styles to create a hybrid form marked for its practicality. Many battle masters do not consider Naman sufficiently demanding. While it is true that it would be nearly impossible for a Form 6 adherent to defeat an expert in Makashi, this doesn't mean that the style isn't useful for facing down criminals and thugs. Thus, for Jedi Consulars who devote a high percentage time to studying peacekeeping, it is a form easily mastered. To compensate for the relaxed focus on blade work, Form 6 encourages integrating Force powers into combat. Two notable moves include Draw Closer, in which a Jedi telekinetically pulls an enemy within range of a saber sweep, and the Pushing Slash, in which a Jedi force blasts an enemy away after inflicting a cut. Proper management of these tools allow a Form 6 master to take control of a group of enemies and eliminate them one by one. Naman is also the combat style associated with the use of twin blades. The art of wielding a sword in each hand is broadly known as Jarkai, after the Yashvisin swordsman. Form 6 acts as a foundation for this challenging practice. Those who wish to incorporate a second blade may wish to use a lightsaber shoto in their offhand, for its shorter blade allows for greater range of motion. Jedi who have multiple limbs, such as the Prakpilin master Skywelly, who carried 6 sabers, are a wonder to behold in the extant recordings in the Jedi holocrons. Marks of contact. Lightsaber combat ends when an opponent is disabled, dead, or forced to surrender. Such results are achieved through the marks of contact. The marks of contact should be applied with intent and with the objective of preserving life unless circumstances force you to deliver a killing blow. Shim, one of the first 2 fundamental marks, is a blow delivered with the edge of the blade. It usually inflicts superficial wounds, but if you have any opening in battle, you should be quick to seize it. Shayak, the second fundamental mark, pierces an opponent with the blade's point. Preferred for its precision, it is a mark that indicates you are in control of the blade and the Force is in control of you. Sun Gem, as you read under Form 2, can disarm an opponent by destroying his weapon or forcing him to drop it. Chow Mei is more direct. It severs the weapon hand entirely, leaving your opponent alive but unable to continue the fight, and is thus a merciful conclusion to battle. Cho Sun removes the entire weapon arm at a point above the elbow on most humanoids. Not as precise as Cho Mei, it will nevertheless end a battle quickly. Cho Mok severs a different limb, such as a leg. Maiming of this nature should only be done if an opening exists and you do not think you could win otherwise in the fight. Mo Ke is a forbidden variant, literally meaning to dismember. It involves the act of cutting through several limbs at once. You should never need to use Mo Ke against a living being, given the many alternatives. Sai Cha is the act of cutting an enemy's head from his shoulders. It is never the intention of a Jedi to extinguish a fellow life, for even the worst of us exists as a luminous being in the warmth of the Force. But when required, a lightsaber can also kill. If a Shayak thrust through the heart cannot be done, this is the preferred method for fatality. Sai Tok slices an entire body into 2 halves. This act is rightly considered barbaric and evidence of this furious emotion of the dark side. Unless you're fighting a droid, no student of mine should ever use Sai Tok. Sense abilities. As initiates, you work to master your body's reactions and to enhance your limitations through your instruction and control. As Padawans, you will spend far more time developing the discipline of sense and the Force abilities that emanate from it. Sense is a natural broadening of the principles of control. As you extend your reach beyond yourself to your environment, be prepared to gain a deeper cosmic awareness as the living Force reveals itself to you. Some of you have been training in these exercises for years, but as Padawans, you should experience a breakthrough moment when everything becomes as natural as using your eyes to see or your ears to hear. Life detection is the most basic of the sensibilities. It is known in the traditional High Galactic as Prima Vita. Through this ability, you can feel the presence of living things and track their positions at long range. You may even discover that life signatures have unique flavors, with colleagues and friendly locals giving up a warm, reassuring glow that is instantly distinguishable from the anger of an enemy. The bond you share with your master is the most important expression of prima vita and provides a conceptual proof for how far your abilities might take you. Some Padawans can feel the presence of their masters from light years away. The living force is what provides the link between all living things. Perceiving the totality of these strands is the object of tactus otum, or sense force. To practice or hone this ability, do not focus on a single signature. Relax your perceptions so that all around you becomes a blur. The force will reveal itself in time, letting you see its area's force signature, and revealing whether it is healthy or sickly, beneficial or malevolent. Some places are strong in the dark side. This sense will provide you a bit of a warning before you approach such a site. Practicing sensibilities. Magnifying the senses is an obvious application of the Force, but one that many Padawans struggle to apply. Because the Force often supplies its own unique perspective, it can feel counterintuitive to use it for enhancing the same senses we use every day. Padawans who need help in this area are advised to practice Force-boosted hearing while meditating, with all other senses closed down. Program a training remote to travel away from you at 1 meter per minute. After listening to the quiet hum of its repulsor lift for a time, you may be shocked to discover that it has already left your chamber and is halfway through the temple. Through the same technique, you can gain improved eyesight that exceeds the range of macro binoculars. If you are a species that relies on scent, taste, air pressure, or electromagnetism, you can adapt this exercise to achieve similar successes. Postcognition, or Tal Vordrex, is one of the few sensibilities that draws upon the unifying force. You are still extending your perceptions, but in this case, you are doing it within the flow of time itself. The psychometry technique involves handling an object to get a force reading of the beings who handled it last. This can also apply to a general area. To see what transpired in a particular room, for example, but works best for recent or violent events. This is not the same thing as force-enhanced memory recall, because the Jedi need not ever have been present for postcognition. You are drawing on the Force's memory of the event, not your own. Projective telepathy combines your perceptual abilities of sense with the more direct discipline of alter, allowing you to actually put your voice in the mind of another. Even some members of Council cannot achieve this, so don't be discouraged. It is far easier to give a fellow Jedi a general warning sense than to convey a detailed message including the number of attackers and the weapons each is carrying. On the other hand, if you are a Hortek, Drothos, or a member of a telepathic species, take pride in your natural gift. Field equipment and mission responsibility. As a Padawan, one of the hardest things to get used to is the amount of travel you'll need to tackle. Coruscant isn't your home anymore. You could find yourself on any planet in the galaxy, dealing with snow, sand, methane, or magma. The only advice I can give you is to be prepared. Before you and your master leave on any mission, you'll probably need to visit the quartermaster. In the quartermaster's office, you can receive a supply of mission-specific gear to outfit you for whatever task has been assigned to you by the Council. The most important thing to do on a mission is to follow the lead of your master. You are a Padawan, and you are still learning, but that doesn't mean that you should not be ready. It's important to know your surroundings and your equipment. You should learn the strengths and weaknesses of your standard field equipment package. The A88 Aqua Breather is rated for up to 2 hours of oxygen intake, but is easily calibrated for mixtures of different gases if you belong to a species with specific respiratory needs. These breathers are most commonly used for underwater travel, but they can easily save your life in toxic or thin atmospheres. The Jedi Beacon Transceiver should be kept with you at all times. It is a hyperwave device keyed to the temple on a proprietary signal-locked frequency. That means you can instantly communicate with the temple from a range up to 48,000 light years, or with another Jedi's transceiver as long as the signal is bounced through the temple first. In an emergency, this device will allow you to receive news from the Order. The compressed air grappling hook comes equipped with a liquid reservoir. When the hook is fired, the liquid hardens, turning into a high tensile cable with a maximum length of 21 meters and a tested breaking point of 550 kilograms. The comlink is a Kultech KP009. This is a durable model with a factory guaranteed range of 100 kilometers to permit surface-to-orbit communications and can emit a shroud of white noise to block eavesdroppers. Use this to stay in touch with your master if you are separated. The Image Caster, or Sensorian Harlock's Mark Null, projects a holomap or other 3D images. This includes holographic communications when used in conjunction with your beacon transceiver. Other items, including nutrient capsules, a glow rod, and a lightsaber repair tools, are standard issue equipment in any field kit. These items can be found in your utility belt. Using the temple's analysis chamber. I have at times worked as a Jedi investigator and have gained experience among regular people, which led me to confront a disagreeable truth. The Force is limited in its applications. A talented Jedi can detect the emotional residue from an object and can even perceive flashes of past events. But sometimes the Force fails you. In those instances, you should feel no shame in turning over your investigation to one of our JN66 analysis droids. The Temple's analysis chamber is on level ALEC 5 in the First Knowledge Quarter. This facility is equipped for full spectral analysis of artifacts and data recordings. Don't let an over-reliance on the Jedi training prevent you from using this resource once in a while. The chamber has several Cybot Galactica JN66 units along with a handful of SP4 models to tackle the more menial duties. The facility is, by necessity, entirely sterile. The laboratory is scoured for all microorganisms that might taint the proceedings, and in many cases is kept at full vacuum. Anything you wish to drop off for scanning by the droids should be left in the receiving slot, along with a summary of what you hope to uncover, an overview of the object, and explanation of how it came into your possession. From experience, I recommend that you simply state the desired outcome of the analysis, not the specific scans needed to determine the outcome. The equipment in the facility can create a hollow image of every single atomic bond, so very little can escape its attention. Any given sample may be subject to at least thermal, micro-optic, electromagnetic, chemical, sonic, and radiation testing. The chamber's computers are linked to both the Jedi Archives and the Galactic City Police Central Database, so any criminal evidence is likely to find a match as soon as the analysis has run its course. It's up to us Jedi to gather the data, but the droids are programmed to take it from there. Advanced cultures and politics in the Republic. Once you leave the temple on a mission, the variety and complexity of life outside Coruscant becomes inescapable. For reasons both biological and cultural, many species play specialized roles in interstellar relations. What follows is a partial list of those influential cultural players, but it's a good idea to dive in and interact with them firsthand. Duros are among the galaxy's oldest space travelers. Originating in the core worlds of Doro, they are in fact rarely found there. Instead, they dominate the ranks of for-hire pilots and the staffs of busy space stations. In my experience, a Duros always has a story to tell, but it helps if you buy a round of geyser ales first. The Biths of Clador 7 are mathematicians. They're also outstanding musicians, which to them is really just another way of saying the same thing. Biths perceive musical tones as easily as other species see colors, so don't miss a chance to take in a live performance. Herglics have been in the business of interstellar trade for over 27,000 years. The Jedi Temple is one of the many Coruscant entities that employs Herglics for the import and export of contracts. Humans dominate much of the politics here on Coruscant, but Corellians are a unique and memorable human breed. Brave, cocky, and charismatic, they consider themselves better pilots than any Duros could ever hope to be. Hire a Sulstan when you need a navigator or a guide. Because the species evolved inside the volcanic warrens of Sullust, it is nearly impossible for a Sulstan to get lost. Hutts, of course, rule Hutt space, the galaxy's largest political power other than the Republic now that the war with the Sith is over. Hutts are brilliant strategists who often think 5 moves ahead, so don't underestimate them. Bothans are in charge of Bothan space, a small enclave centered in Balwathwi in the Mid-Rim. Because the territory is politically neutral, it is a haven for spies from 1,000 different factions. Squibs are among the galaxy's greatest scavengers. Though they have a reputation as thieves, squibs shrewd the judges of value and can fix machines that appear hopelessly damaged. Squibs have got me out of more jams than can be expected, though the experiences did some damage to my credit line with the temple. Aliens resistant to Force abilities. My specialty in alien biology, and as a Jedi, I recognize that the fundamental unifier in all life is the Force. It is fascinating how the Force inspires such a variety of change and adaptation, even allowing species to develop barriers that redirect the Force's natural flow. Because such evolutions can be found among recognized sentient beings, you should be able to identify these species on sight if you use your Jedi abilities to the fullest. Hutts. You and your master will probably run into a Hutt's thug long before you meet an actual Hutt, but don't use mind tricks if you're brought before their boss. Hutts are notoriously difficult to influence or read through the Force. Their elusiveness has been a struggle for Jedi since our forebears left Tython. Toydarians. These fascinating beings have lighter than air gases in their bellies that enable flight in standard or less than standard gravities. But remember that Toydarians are resistant to mind tricks, illusions, and telepathic suggestion. They are well aware of this fact and boast that they can easily outsmart a Jedi. Do not haggle with a Toydarian vendor. Dashade. This species nearly vanished after the supernova destruction of their home world, but a few survivors remain, including Snar Extract, who works with Master Vanek as her sparring partner. Dashat have resistant to all direct applications of the Force, including telekinetic shoves and pulls, and cannot be sensed by a Jedi even when standing at arm's length. It is a tragedy that the Sith recruited so many Dashade as assassins during the last war and reduced their numbers even further. Yin Kori. These reptilians are immune to mental manipulation and cannot have their internal balance disrupted by advanced Force manipulation. Their warriors also wear Cortosis armor, so don't pick a fight. Bergna. Look, most rock-based creatures, this species from the moon Indubok can be particularly incommunicable since their microscopic structure are so different from midi-chlorian-infused organic cells. All Bergna share a communal mind and are resistant to every direct Force application. Shidu. This species are shapeshifters. Don't underestimate them. Due to their fluid structures, getting a fix on a shapeshifter in the Force can feel like grabbing a fleek eel. The Shidu and the liquid metal Praxul are among the most inanimate species I've ever encountered in my research. Force-wielding animals. Why shouldn't animals use the Force? That was my thought when I first heard of the phenomenon as an initiate, before I started down the path that ultimately gave me the horrific of the Beastmaster. Since that time, I've seen plenty of evidence that the Force can be an advantage, just like spines or antlers. Central to any discussions are the Vornik and the Yalari of a classified world. Their abilities cause the Council to quarantine the entire system. Vorskers are quadrupedal predators that can sense the Force and can use that sense to home in on their prey. So because Jedi are strong in the Force, they appear as the biggest and tastiest meal a Vorkers has ever encountered. Beware the enemy that utilizes this ability to hunt Jedi. Though Vorkers are organic Jedi detectors, their Force abilities are negligible compared to those of the Simari, airborne lizards that create bubbles or voids in the Force that hide their energy from predators like Vorkers. Enough Simari clustered together can generate a large void to disable an army of Jedi from using the Force. Equally dangerous are the Tauzen, annelids that size of hover trains, found on the moons of Vart. The nodules on a Tozin carapace interfere with the Jedi's sensibilities, making the Tauzen appear invisible to the Force. This also applies to those that carry Tauzen nodules. Also among dangerous predators that use the Force are night hunters, which have more in common with the Tauzen than the Varstiks. They can manipulate the Force to create a cloak of shadows around themselves. Because night hunters are sometimes used as guard beasts, it would be beneficial for you to learn to recognize their silhouettes. Other Force-sensitive animals are more benign. Bactori are aquatic parasites from the Nampraxic, but they can be found on many temperate ocean worlds. These creatures use the Force to enhance their senses to locate prey. They have also been known to use the Force to help heal their injuries. Studying abroad Praximium ships. The Exploration Corps is a branch of the Jedi Service Corps I most respect because it never stops pushing boundaries. The Explore Corps seek my advice whenever possible, and one practice I continue to champion is the use of Praximium ships. These interstellar vessels are operated and crewed by members of the Explore Corps, but they play host to initiates, Padawans, knights, and even honored Jedi Masters such as myself. They range in size from converted cargo freighters up to custom-built Corellian colonizers that are more than 300 meters long. These Corellian ships are the pride of the Exocorps. There are 3 in service: the Beneficia, the Luminosity, and the Silicon Stillness. At one point, the Order operated as many as 13, but most didn't survive the recent war with the Sith. These 3 vessels regularly patrol the core, the rim, and the fringes of wild space. If you're called aboard a Praximium ship, consider yourself lucky. As a Padawan, I would have given anything to share my knowledge with the Jedi working in galactic trouble spots. Most of your time aboard these vessels will be spent training, including lightsaber sparring and studying languages and cultures. The ships can accommodate more than 1,000 Jedi each and have facilities including meditation chambers, libraries, gymnasiums, starfield holomaps, and a medical wing. At any moment, a Jedi Praximium ship can be called upon to assist after a planetary disaster or intervene in a civil war. Consequently, the ships carry laser and ion cannons installed during the war and have hangars for lightweight starfighters. With the defeat of the Sith, more resources can now be focused on projects like Praximium ships. One proposal I'm personally advancing is the construction of a new peacetime Praximium at the Abhan shipyards. It will be called the Sunburnus and will stretch 2 kilometers long and 1 kilometer wide. It will be a sight to behold. The Jedi Trials. Your apprenticeship is a temporary thing. At some point, you'll have learned all you can from your master, and one-on-one study will no longer benefit either of you. When that day comes, you must be prepared for the Jedi Trials. The trials of knighthood date back to the birth of the Order on Tython during the pre-Republic era. For thousands of years, they had no fixed structure and instead centered on the assessment of individual masters regarding the fitness of their students. While the Council encourages a strong bond between master and Padawan, the flaws in this arrangement were clear. Masters can develop inflated opinions of their students due to shared experiences, or conversely, can become their students' worst critics in an effort to improve them. Neutral, dispassionate judgment and objective standards provide more verifiable benchmarks from which to judge the skill of a Padawan. The current battery of Jedi trials, instated after the relaxed standards of the last war, consists of 5 challenges. The trial of skill demonstrates a Jedi's competence with a lightsaber and the Force principles of control. The trial of courage establishes a Jedi's skill and fortitude in the face of danger and overwhelming odds. The trial of spirit tests a Jedi's ability to vanquish inner battles and emerge unscathed. The trial of flesh demonstrates a Jedi's capacity to overcome great pain. The trial of insight reveals a Jedi's aptitude for distinguishing reality from illusion through deception challenges. Your examination will take place in the Jedi Trials Chamber unless the Council has made other arrangements. Trial of Skill. Don't be fooled into thinking of the Trial of Skill as a physical challenge. Master Vanek and the Council members will judge your performance based on a series of lightsaber tests, but in truth, this trial hinges on the Jedi's ability to maintain self-discipline in the face of distraction. Lightsaber combat is attached to the Trial of Skill as a matter of modern convenience, for every Jedi must demonstrate the ability to wield a blade. Yet, lightsaber combat springs from the discipline of control. Early in the history of the Order, the Trial of Skill took many forms, including acrobatics while balanced on the tip of a wooden staff, and keeping a single pebble suspended while standing in the vortex of a howling Tythonese hailstorm. Do not bother to anticipate what type of lightsaber challenge you will encounter during the Trial of Skill, or which opponent you will face. The popular rumor among Padawan is that you must outlast the Jedi Battlemaster in a session that may span hours. This could be true, for aching fatigue provides exactly the challenge to a Jedi's focus that the Trial of Skill is meant to evaluate. Yet, you may face multiple opponents at once. A succession of fresh opponents while you become increasingly exhausted, a duel with one Jedi while others manipulate your perceptions or shift the floor tiles beneath your feet, or perhaps even a duel with a member of the Council, including our venerable Grand Master, a rare privilege indeed. Such challenges are not meant to be unfair. All are designed to mimic challenges you may one day face if you are to serve the Order and the Republic as a Jedi Knight. The latest feature in the Jedi Trials Chamber is a holographic projector, introduced after the victory of the Rusin and capable of creating enemies from the air itself. With this tool, you might face Darth Ruin, Lord Cain, or any of the worst monsters to ever rise from the dark side. Trial of Courage. Even if your talents lean more towards diplomacy than war, courage is an integral part of being a Jedi. Though the Force is with us, we are small in the number when compared to the people of the galaxy. We have numerous enemies, and must also contend with those who do not understand our order, and therefore misinterpret our motives. As Jedi, we can never relax our discipline, nor can we fail to confront evil. A Jedi who's afraid to confront injustice is no Jedi at all, which makes the Trial of Courage a revelatory test. I cannot tell you what you will face in your Trial of Courage. Its purpose is for a Padawan to persist in the face of fear. If you know what the trial will consist of, then the true measure of your courage will not be tested. In previous eras, a Padawan was considered to have passed the test of courage if he or she demonstrated battlefield heroics, such as standing up to a vastly powerful Sith Lord. Similar dispositions were handed down by the Council during the last war. But in such situations, it is at times difficult to sort out courage from recklessness. Overconfidence is a flaw, and rushing in unprepared can often make things worse. Courage must be aligned with the fourth precept of the Jedi Code. There is no chaos, there is harmony. The war is over, but the Council may still assign special missions to Padawans who wish to pass the trial of courage. The mission could simply be a creation of the Council to test your reactions within the Jedi Trials Chamber, or it could be a deadly dangerous. Regardless of the nature of your challenge, it is important for you to not share the details of your experience with your fellow Padawans. All must experience the trial untainted. Trial of Flesh. For many Padawans, the trial of flesh is the most difficult of the knighthood trials. This ordeal will test your ability to overcome great pain and be quite literal. As a historian, I have studied the trial of flesh in its incarnations throughout the millennia. During the Pius Dia era, the Jedi Order subjected Padawans to torments of cold, cuts, sonic shocks, and the application of sustained, low-powered blaster fire in the technique that the smugglers call the burning. Now condemned as barbarism, this practice is best understood as a product of its time. It did, however, crystallize the trial of flesh's most fundamental principle, divorcing the self from the spirit. During the most recent war against the Sith, the Council viewed battle as a living expression of the trial of flesh. All Padawans who survived a war injury passed the trial on the evidence of their scars. Padawans who had defeated a Sith Lord sometimes passed the trial of flesh, skill, and courage simultaneously. Far from being a matter of political expediency, these battlefield trials have a long precedent in the Jedi Order. Padawans who lost a limb to Cho Muk or other marks of contact surrendered their flesh to demonstrate their commitment to the Jedi Order. It is now a different time, and we do not expect Padawans to prove their worth through wounds. The trial of flesh, in fact, is about more than physical agony. The pain of loss is part of your passage from Padawan to knighthood, for you are giving up the closest bond you have ever known. As the partnership with your master is formally dissolved, you may be overwhelmed by feelings of sadness or regret. This is part of your trial of flesh. Think well on the first precept of the Jedi Code. There is no emotion, there is peace. Trial of Spirit. Outsiders think the Jedi exist to crusade against enemies, that we are mere counterbalances to the threat of the Sith. Only among our own ranks do we recognize that a Jedi is emotional commitment to a higher spirituality. This is the challenge represented by the trial of spirit, known among some as facing the mirror. Jedi possesses great power, and those who have fallen to the dark side have unleashed their power in waves of misery. The trial of spirit measures your temptation and whether you can put them aside in the service of the greater cause. Although this is just as much as a battle as the trial of skill, during this challenge you might not flex a single muscle. The battlescape is in your mind, and victory is marked by a profound sense of peace. It is impossible to describe the trial of spirit. I do not know the fears coiled in your heart. Not even Grandmaster Fei would presume to dictate your challenges. The trial of spirit is to be carried out under deep meditation, with a master who will nudge you into the path that you least wish to tread. Under meditation, you may feel that you've been transported off Coruscant entirely. You may see the faces of colleagues who have long since passed into the Force. You will undoubtedly see things that disturb you, from enemies you have faced to the most horrific connotations in the coarse, nightmarish mythology. Remember the third precept of the Jedi Code. There is no passion, there is serenity. Stay true to the discipline of self-control, and keep in mind that you are but an agent of the Force. Once you accept that grief, shame, revenge, and all other emotions that center on the self have no hold on you. You will emerge victorious. If you do not, you will emerge broken and screaming. You should hope you do not fail the trial of spirit. Trial of insight. Can Jedi be deceived? Of course, but only if we ignore the will of the Force or the information in our archives. A Jedi who is deceived is no longer working for the cause of the light side. In extreme cases, a Jedi operating under delusion may become a danger to innocence. The trial of insight guards against this threat. It was the last test to be formalized as part of the trial of knighthood, and rose to prominence after it became clear that the trials were producing Jedi who were brave, competent, and could overcome temptation, but who could not see the patter of a simple con artist. Deception and misdirection are threats to the Jedi, and our enemies frequently use them against us. The Hutts have been the ruin of countless Jedi campaigns throughout history, not due to their martial prowess, but through their trickery. The trial of insight tests a Padawan's ability to see through illusion and judge the person beneath, and to filter out distractions in search of the truth. Over the centuries, many challenges have been employed to assess the ability in the trial of insight. These include locating a single grain of sand within a field of stones, determining the content and meaning of fragmented text from scattered pieces, and solving any of the high riddles of Dwarti. And no, researching the riddles in the archives beforehand is not permitted. The trial of insight may occur at a moment when you're not prepared for it, and may in fact be part of an unrelated challenge. I am reminded of 3 Padawans undergoing the 8th hour of the trial of skill. Through a perceptual trick, all were made to believe they faced a horde of angry warriors. One battled on the face of certain defeat and passed her trial of courage. The second perceived the illusionary nature of the combatants and passed his trial of insight. The third bowed out of the trial, citing exhaustion, and failed to become a knight. Exceptions to the Jedi trials. The purpose of the trials of knighthood, the post-Russian reformations, and the very volume you hold in your hands is to formalize what at times been a messy process of recognizing a Jedi's progress within the Force. Through the strain of war, plague, and economic collapse the Republic has endured over the last few centuries, Jedi standards have grown disgustingly neglected. No longer are battlefield promotions the norm, and no longer are knights and masters permitted final say in whether their Padawans are ready to graduate from apprenticeship. Though I do not approve, there are cases in which a Padawan may become a knight while bypassing some or all the trials. The current structure of the 5 Jedi trials is designed to produce knights in whom the Council has entrusted its confidence. Thus, the Council may, at its discretion, promote any Jedi for any reason, or refuse such a promotion if its judgment warrants it. No Padawan should lobby for special treatment. You do not know better than the Council. There can be no appeal or dispute. Unusual circumstances under which a Padawan may bypass one or more of the formal trials include trial of skill, Padawans who have bested a battle master during sparring, or have demonstrated blindfolded mastery of a saber training exercise, fellows cadets, may be judged sufficiently advanced in this area that standard testing is redundant. Trial of courage, a variety of special dispositions can be given for this trial, encompassing a Padawan who has succeeded in a difficult mission, or who have saved the lives of their masters. Trial of spirit, Padawans shown to have mastered their own dark side may be judged to have passed this trial. During the war, this included followers of the Sith army who turned to the light. Trial of the flesh, significant pain and loss is considered a worthy demonstration, such as initiates who are recruited later in life and have experienced the pain of loss, quieted their feelings for their family of their birth. Trial of insight, if a Padawan has demonstrated wisdom beyond his or her years and training, this may count as a pass, particularly if he or she divined into a solution that avoided violence. The Knighting Ceremony. If you have passed the trials, you will know it at once. There is little point in keeping a Padawan in the dark regarding their status. However, you will not bear the title of knight until the completion of the Knighting Ceremony. Proper etiquette must be followed during this most ancient rituals. Prepare yourself, and do not embarrass your master by forgetting your role. One day before the appointed date, report to the heart of the temple. Here in the preparation chamber at the center of the sacred tranquility spiral, you will spend a day and night in meditation. You may be alone, or there may be many Padawans sharing the space with you. Do not use this time for socialization, but instead reflect upon your journey as a Jedi and prepare yourself for what the Force wills for your future. On the following day, you'll be summoned to the Hall of Knighthood, most likely alone, but possibly with one or more of your fellow knights-to-be. The members of the High Council will be present, along with your master and other Jedi who played a key role in your development. If the High Council members are off-world or inaccessible, members of the Reassignment, Reconsideration, or First Knowledge Councils may sit in as appropriate. All members of Council will ignite their lightsabers to illuminate the darkened chamber. As the Grand Master or ranking Jedi approaches you, kneel to hear the words offered on your behalf. Bow your head when the Master recites the following passage. By the right of the Council, by the will of the Force, I dub thee Knight of the Republic. The Master will lower his or her blade to your shoulder and bring it up in a swift motion to cut loose your Padawan braid. If you are not of a species that grows the blade will be brought to both shoulders or sides of the body and raised in a sharp salute. You are now a Jedi Knight. If you fail the trials. Failure at any of the trials is equal to failure at all of them. But even success at all the trials does not guarantee a promotion to Jedi Knight. The Council is the final authority in all matters relating to the Order, including the ranks of its members. There are many cases in which Jedi who passed the trials received a rejection when the Council did not sense the will of the Force in their future. In other cases, the Council has promoted those with little aptitude for the trials under the conviction that the Force still had much work to do in their future lives as Jedi Knights. All this is to say, do not be overconfident. You cannot will your knighthood into existence with words or deeds, and accepting your subservience to the Council is an act of humility central to our existence as public servants. If you fail the trials, and if the Council does not forbid it, you may try again. You will undoubtedly wish to spend the intervening time in study and training. If your master permits, you may even return to your familiar Padawan apprenticeship. However, this is a temporary arrangement, and you must select a date for your second round of trials. There is nothing printed in any tome of Jedi regulation that limits how many times you may take the trials, but such determinations are made at the Council's indulgence. Repeated failures will not be tolerated, and are evidence that you are defying the Force's plan for your destiny. Accept that you will not become a knight, and meditate on what the Force is saying. It is advised to spend up to several weeks without food or rest during this period of meditation, as you purge your body and mind of distraction. You can always continue your time with the Order in the Jedi Service Corps, or within the ranks of the temple staff. You may retain the rank of Padawan if you choose, even though you are no longer a formal apprentice. You may also wish to go by the simple rank of Jedi. Roles and duties of a Jedi Knight. Upon your graduation to knighthood, you will be a full member of the Order in the eyes of all. As a Jedi Knight, you will travel the galaxy and aid all those you encounter. You will no longer be bound to a master, and can thus choose your own approach to solving the dilemmas laid before you. Of course, you will still be subject to the demands of the Council. The Council, or one of the proxies in our satellite academies will determine missions you execute. As a Jedi Knight, you are the arms and legs of the Order, and the Council requires you to stay fit and prepared for the moment when you will be asked to end threats to the citizens of the galaxy. There are more Knights than any other rank of the Jedi in the Order, and there are many paths Jedi Knights may follow in their careers. Knights perform several functions within the Order, including peacekeepers, diplomacy, and investigation. Such talent specializations has given rise to 3 distinct branches of Knights and Masters: Jedi Guardians, Jedi Counselors, and Jedi Sentinels. Each group differs greatly in its approach to carrying out a mission, but all 3 philosophies are vital to the Order. Allow the Force to guide you into a role that will best utilize your innate abilities. Your service as a Jedi Knight can last decades, even centuries, if you belong to a species blessed with longevity. Throughout these years, you will serve in the name of the Republic and at the will of the Force, an opportunity few beings will ever know. Jedi Guardian. If you prefer heroics to standing around, becoming a Jedi Guardian may be the path for you. While I'm not here to disparage the work of our Jedi Counselors and Sentinels, it's a fact that we Guardians are the Republic's first line of defense against 1,000 enemies who seek to destroy it. The Guardians are the heirs of the first Jedi Knights. When the first faction of Taiwanese left their home world, they did so with the express purpose of making the wild galactic frontier safe for innocents, and with the same principles we uphold today. It's primarily this branch of the Order that is identified with lightsabers. The lightsaber is our weapon and our symbol. Once you choose to specialize as a Jedi Guardian, training will consume your off hours. Your time is no longer subject to the demands of a master, so neglect of your exercises is at your own peril. Each day I set aside time for 1 hour of running, 1 hour of unarmed combat drills, and 1 hour of saber canvases or sparring. Although the Sith were extinguished in the last war, the current reality of peacetime has only heightened the importance of the Guardians. Following the post-war governmental reformations, the Republic no longer has a standing military. We are essentially the Republic's army, and must be ready to give up our lives in the service of this cause. In a sense, we are also the Republic's police force, responsible for keeping the peace and detaining lawbreakers. The services of the Guardians are in desperate need among the worlds of the Outer Rim and wild space, where local security forces hold little sway and the people are in need of saviors. Jedi Guardians usually carry blue-bladed lightsabers, though doing so is more of a sign of fraternity than a mandate. You can use whatever blade you're comfortable with, though I'm certain you will wish to replace your original Apprentice sabers. We're warriors, so your lightsaber will see plenty of use. With enough heroics, you may one day join me and earn the honorific of Warrior Master. There are many paths to follow within the ranks of the Jedi Guardians. The ways of war are numerous, and no single Jedi can be the best at all of them. Jedi Peacekeepers. The Jedi Peacekeepers specialize in security and policing, and are among the oldest groups recognized by the Order. Though all of them are fine warriors, they do not normally serve as frontline combat troops, and are instead trained in crowd control, apprehending suspects, and shutting down threats before they can turn violent. At the request of the planetary governors, peacekeepers are stationed on Republic worlds, where they work as liaisons to local law enforcement and militias. Temple security. On Coruscant, peacekeepers are synonymous with temple security. These Jedi watch over the Jedi Temple and the surrounding district, keeping the area safe from eccentrics, zealots, and armed radicals. The ranks of the temple security include Jedi Gatekeepers, who monitor the main entrance, and Jedi Brutes, whose imposing bulk often scares away troublemakers. Jedi Starfighters. Members of the Jedi Starfighter Corps, known as Jedi Aces, pilot a fleet of savage starfighters. are starfighters of choice over the somewhat outdated Kuat Redshift was used to beat the Sith. These ships are equipped with twin laser cannons, a Champit deflector shield, and an external hyperdrive sled. Jedi Aces use the Force to enhance reaction speed, targeting precision and battle awareness, but we never use it to cloud the perception of our enemies. We're Aces, and shortcuts of that kind are not needed. As Jedi Aces, we travel all across the galaxy, sometimes hitching rides aboard Republic capital ships. During the wars, these Republic Navy vessels. After the Reformations, of course, the Navy no longer exists, but Aces are welcomed by all sector and planetary defense forces. I've served with Aces for nearly 20 years. In that time, I've upgraded our fighter squadrons, destroyed more than 300 enemy craft, and earned the honorary title Air Marshal of the Republic. Don't be intimidated by the achievements. No one in the Starfighter Corps expects you to reach such heights, but we do need good pilots. Lightsaber instructors. Lightsabers are integral to our identity as an order. As soon as initiates are old enough to stand, they are instructed in the proper handling of a saber, and this instruction never truly ends until a Jedi has become one with the Force. It should therefore be evident that lightsaber instructors are among the most vital players in the Jedi Order. If this style sounds interesting to you, slow down. This is not a specialization you take on without proving your mettle in combat. Unlike the consulars, we Guardians don't put much faith in teachers for life, and saber instructors bear the scars that attest to hundreds of combat skills. While it's true that the Jedi Order avoids violence whenever possible, it is at times necessary. In that light, who has the abilities best suited for a combat instructor, a diplomat or a warrior? The Temple has one instructor who bears the title of Battle Master, currently Master Venek. The Battle Master designation was once held by only a single Jedi at a time, but the title grew in popularity during the war until it encompassed hundreds of generals and Jedi Lords. Most of these now serve at satellite Jedi academies and aboard Praxium ships. Battle Masters train initiates and Padawans in the use of Form 1 through Form 6 combat moves and cadences, and impart knowledge about Form 7 to those who have earned their trust. Beneath the Battle Masters, day-to-day instructors serve to reinforce the proper execution of these styles. All lightsaber instructors are Jedi Masters and must be recommended by a Battle Master and rectified by the High Council. The position of lightsaber instructor is one that Jedi Masters may achieve towards the end of their careers, when their reflexes have slowed but their minds are still sharp. It can also be a role filled by preternaturally gifted people who possess skills with a saber running so deep it is foolish to waste time on rim control. Exotic Weapon Specialist. Although the lightsaber is our primary weapon, it is not the only type of armament available to the Jedi. The Starfighter, for example, is a specialized weapon used by Jedi Aces, but there are many other tools used by those in the Order to fulfill specific missions or to exploit unique skill sets. Exotic weapon specialists are rare within the ranks of the Jedi Guardians, but they are respected for their mastery of difficult and extorting disciplines. Mastery of any of the following weapons can earn you the title of Exotic Weapon Specialist. The double-bladed lightsaber and lightsaber pike are lightsaber variants that require combat specializations. These experts sometimes wield quarterstaffs with no energy blade at all. These can be made of lightsaber-resistant metal, or it can be humble wooden staffs strengthened through the Force. Whips can be made of leather, wire, cord, or energy tendrils, as in a light whip. Experts with whips use them to ensnare arms and legs, allowing them to disarm enemies or the Force to the floor. Flails are a class of weapon using a weighted ball attached to a handle by means of a rope or chain. They are difficult weapons to master, but an expert in flails can use the ball to crack bones, the chain can entangle, and the handle, which is often adorned with a blade, to injure at close range. Ranged weapons are not often employed by the Jedi, but there is no inherent shame in striking from a distance, though you will have to endure the curiosity of your peers. Jedi who have trained in blaster rifles as their specialization use the Force to enhance their vision and guide their shots. Most of the Temple snipers use their lightsabers as ranged weapons, throwing them with distance and precision to take out targets. Some Jedi use their bodies as weapons. The martial artists of Bakuni hand employ the Force to strengthen their hands, feet, forearm when making an unarmed strike. A blow from a Banuki master can pulverize stone. Most exotic weapon specialists devote their lives to the mastery of their chosen subject. Like lightsaber instructors, they often enter a teaching phase after they have achieved the rank of master. Jedi Counselors. The path of the Jedi is one of harmony, one that avoids violence and seeks to unite living beings through the peace of the Force. Jedi Guardians are needed to prevent the spread of evil, but it is the Jedi Counselors who uphold the central precepts of the Jedi Code. The most esteemed Jedi Counselor Masters serve on the Reassignment Council, which is responsible for negotiating with political factions both within the Republic and outside it. We are not a replacement for the Senate. In fact, we serve as the pleasure. Yet, our understanding of the Force gives us a unique perspective in conflict resolution, one that ensures the galaxy's long-term stability. While the High Council reports to the Supreme Chancellor, the Reassignment Council often works with the Republic Diplomatic Corps. The Jedi are largely synonymous with the Republic, and it is not uncommon for new alien cultures to insist on dealing with a Jedi representative when negotiating the world's entry into the galactic community. Jedi's counselors help to serve all people of the galaxy in political dealings and conflict resolutions. While the Force is a significant part of the effectiveness and is useful in detecting deception, using the Force to prod warring parties to sign a treaty is considered an abuse of the Jedi's power. Besides negotiating, Jedi counselors also research and teach. Many can be found on Coruscant taking advantage of the archives, volunteering data records, while others serve on such hubs of information as Abroski and Telos. Profound skill with the Force is the mark of a Jedi Counselor. The most advanced among us are given the honorific of Sage Master. The greatest healers, seers, and prophets have all come from within our ranks. Counselors can be outstanding fighters if pushed, but are more likely to rely on Force talents such as effect mind or telekinesis than on brandishing a lightsaber. Though a Jedi Counselor does carry a lightsaber, typically bearing a green blade, it usually remains hooked on his or her belt. If you have chosen the path of the Jedi Counselor, your empathetic talents are strong and you have a deep connection to the Force. Throughout your career, you will improve thousands of lives through your actions. Jedi Seer. Among the ranks of the Jedi Counselor is that of a Jedi Seer. This is the calling I have followed in my own life, so it is one I understand well. Those who become seers are attuned to the higher workings of the unifying Force and can perceive how it binds space and time in a coherent and breathtaking meshwork. Seers hear the voice and feel the will of the Force. They can view events from remote distances and receive visions from both the past and the future. Some seers, known as Jedi prophets, are gifted with extraordinary foreknowledge. Their divination are recorded in our holocrons. Connection between the Jedi Seers and the unifying Force is the most important asset of the Jedi Order possesses. Other powerful groups, including the Hutts, employ warriors, martial artists, and pilots. But who besides the Jedi can perceive the entirety of existence? Jedi Healer. As the Seers use their connection to the unifying Force, Jedi healers use their connection to the living force to save the lives of the dying and to cure the infected. They work closely with the Jedi Medical Corps, but are full-fledged Jedi Knights and Masters, as opposed to most MedCorp Jedi, who never achieved the rank of Padawan. In this leadership role, they oversee the temple's infirmary and practice their curative trade on worlds such as Rhino and Hearth. Jedi Researcher. Jedi researchers employ their exceptional minds to solve theoretical problems and improve the quality of the data in our archives. Specialists among their ranks include mathematicians, hyperspatial physicists, astronomers, and biologists like the esteemed Master Borswitz. Jedi Ambassador. The Jedi Consular does battle using words and ideas. Nowhere is more important than in the specialization of ambassador. Ever since the Jedi learned and adapted the principle of justice from an ancient Khazmi philosophers, we have been known for our impartiality. The precepts of the Jedi Code insist on fair-mindedness. There is no passion, there is serenity. There is no chaos, there is harmony. This attitude is what makes Jedi Consulars the preferred representation of the Galactic Republic, and many of us hold the title of Jedi Ambassador within a Republic bureaucracy. Jedi Ambassadors work closely with government officials and are the face of the Republic to those they meet. They are held to the highest standards of civilized behavior. Jedi Diplomats. Jedi Diplomats are a related class and are more numerous than ambassadors. They work in a more active and less symbolic role, hammering out the terms of agreements and upholding the new galactic peace. It is important to remember that in diplomacy, flexibility is a strength. A rigid tree will be uprooted at the first windstorm, but enacting a treaty, a diplomat can end hostilities and save billions of lives, a far greater victory than any warrior can earn on a battlefield. Lorekeeper. Lorekeeper is a broad term that encompasses Jedi historians, Jedi librarians, and Jedi archivists. Historians specialize in the study of prior eras, while librarians interact with visiting scholars and make the archive resources available to all Jedi. Archivists translate, copy, and store all new texts added to the temple's collection. All three types of lorekeepers are part of the Librarian Assembly, a temple organization governing the acquisition of data. Jedi Sentinel. Striking a balance between the Guardian and the Consular, the Jedi Sentinel is a class that combines both disciplines with civilian expertise. Because we don't focus our time on lightsaber exercises or force meditation, we Sentinels have acquired a host of skills that don't require force sensitivity, and we can accomplish tasks that neither the Guardians nor the Consulars could handle on their own. One of the unspoken truths of the Jedi is that we are insulated from the workings of the galaxy. In my view, it's possible to know too much about combat or the Force, if it means that you know next to nothing about intelligence gathering, computer slicing, technological surveillance, or espionage. Sentinels approach these disciplines from the bottom up, without assuming the Force will reveal all the answers. When you do this, you'll find there's a great deal the civilians of the galaxy can teach us. Unlike Consulars and Guardians who travel between trouble spots, Jedi Sentinels often remain tied to a single sector or planetary system for months or years at a time. In previous eras, this led many Sentinels to be appointed Jedi Watchmen, where they took on the responsibility for the welfare of a defined region of space. Though Sentinels rarely need to use a weapon, like all Jedi, they do carry a lightsaber. A Sentinel's lightsaber usually bears a yellow blade. Haven't seen many of those? Now you will know how few we are in number and how well we stay concealed until action is required. Because the Jedi Sentinels fill the gap between Guardians and Consulars, we tackle missions for which neither group is optimized. But in truth, Sentinels often get the jobs that neither group wants. Handling assignments that our colleagues have written off as impossible is the sign of a Sentinel. The ranks of Jedi Sentinels include investigators, spies, tech specialists, saboteurs, and other experts whose talents don't easily fit into the Order's traditions. Jedi recruiters, such as myself, typically start out as an investigator before using those same talents to identify and enroll Force-sensitive children from across the Republic. Our job requires broad skill sets, but Jedi Sentinels don't care where a tactic originated from as long as it works. Slicer. Slicers are computer specialists who are able to infiltrate networks while leaving no trace of their manipulation. As with many Sentinel specializations, this skill is notable due to the fact that the Force doesn't really offer a shortcut. While you might use a mind trick to get past the guard, once you're seated at a terminal, your data skill is the only thing that matters. Tech Expert. The Tech Expert was carved out of a unique talent among the ranks of the Jedi, who often shun leading-edge technology. They have broader skill sets than Slicers, and are able to disassemble, juice up, and rebuild any piece of equipment from a hyperdrive engine to an electronic deck of Sabak cards. Due to the prevalence of maintenance and repair droids, these abilities are rare among the Jedi Order. Some tech experts have cultivated a gift for the Force ability Mech Duru, which bestows the user with intuitive understanding of how complicated structures, including machinery and circuitry, fit together. Security Expert. The security expert is known for his or her ability to disarm traps and silence alarms. This Jedi recognizes the Force limitations when it comes to technological countermeasures, and has saved many missions and lives by studying how to disrupt them. A security expert can be the difference between a successful infiltration and a lifelong prison sentence in the flame dungeons of Nal Hutta. Jedi Shadow. The elite Jedi Shadows are widely respected members of the Sentinels. The role of a Jedi Shadow is to seek out and vanquish any traces of the dark side, requiring them to do both spies and saboteur. Jedi Shadows prize the mission above all else, and often must make moral compromises that would be unpleasant for other members of the Order. Alter abilities. As a youngling, you can learn control. As a Padawan, you studied sense, and now as a knight, your education in the Force will continue in the discipline of Alter. These abilities, which use the Force to physically impact a surrounding environment, are the most difficult to master. But without Alter, you are like a mud limpet, perceiving your world but incapable of touching it. With Alter, you will grow arms and legs. Learn these skills, practice them daily, and you will deepen your aptitude for Alter throughout your career. Telekinesis is the most fundamental Alter ability, forming the basis for the familiar Force push and Force pull. Your training should focus on both precision and control, but also lifting great weights. The oxygen bottle is a fine exercise for precision, since it requires a Jedi to fill an empty bottle with oxygen molecules plucked one by one from the air. For control, visit the temple's Kudaka chamber, where the Monitor stones are kept. Each stone weighs several tons, so merely jostling one can be marked as a success. Master Fei, it should be noted, can levitate all 6 after entering a state of deep meditation. Effect Mind, commonly referred as the Jedi mind trick, can override the impulses of an undisciplined brain. This ability should be a temporary means to accomplish a greater good. It should never be used for profit or gain. Alter abilities can also be used to heal others, but also to injure. Both are Jedi abilities, though the latter must be used sparingly because the potential for abuse is so great. Among the Sith, Force Injure was used without reservation to kill others from a distance. Alter Environment describes a family of abilities that stand as evidence of the Force's ability to control the natural world. With this, a Jedi could summon a whirlwind or a lightning strike, or can direct hailstorms and crashing waves against the walls of an enemy fortification. The related ability of Plant Surge, or Kostyo Sato, is among my favorites. By drawing on the living force, a Jedi can ensnare enemies in a nest of thorny vines and end a conflict with minimal violence. Advanced Force Techniques. While some Jedi have demonstrated their mastery of the Force's more challenging expressions, this does not obligate you to follow their lead. But if your talents lie in similar areas, you may wish to devote a year or two of your knighthood to becoming an expert in an advanced Force technique. Battle meditation is study and practice, is actively encouraged by the Council, and is absolutely critical in wartime victories. Through battle meditation, a Jedi touches the minds of every soldier in a combat zone, friend and foe alike. Allies gain a boost in morale and fighting efficiency, while enemies become sieged by confusion and fear. At the Battle of Mizur, the death of the Jedi Coordinator to a Sith sniper turned the Jedi retreat into a full-scale slaughter. Combustion is a severe culmination of the art of telekinesis by which a Jedi causes objects to explode. The intensity of the blast can injure an entire room of enemies, particularly if the affected object is made of flammable material. Art of the Small is a fascinating method of melding oneself with the Force. Under meditation, a Jedi's Force presence is shrunk into that of a single atom, allowing for an unprecedented degree of stealth, as well as allowing for a perception of the universe on a molecular scale. Using telekinesis in this state allows Jedi to eliminate toxins and cure certain ailments in others as well as in themselves by constructing healthy proteins and rebuilding cells. Doppelganger permits a Jedi to create a short-lived duplicate of himself or herself, or an external object that is visually indistinguishable from the real item. Those who have perfected this ability can create phantoms of any person of their choosing, or trick an enemy into seeing more objects, such as droids, than that actually are present. The Force Storm is truly an awe-inspiring demonstration of pure natural energy. After using the Force to open a hyperspace wormhole, tremendous shocks will ripple through the fabric of space. Due to the Force's storm potential for abuse, the Council has recently classified it as a dark side power. Forbidden Force Techniques. In your heart, you know which abilities run counter to the Jedi Code. Yet during the last war, the raw power wielded by the Sith prompted some Jedi to match them in rage. Such miscalculation always ends in tragedy. Forbidden Force techniques are marked by a loss of control. Using any of these techniques as a Jedi Knight is prohibited. Force Grip. The refinement of telekinesis works as an invisible extension of the hand, allowing Force users to hoist enemies into the air or close off the air from their trachea. It is truly a brutal and crucial application of the Force. Force Insanity. This dark side perversion of the effect mind invades a victim's psyche with sinister energies to the point that he or she becomes paralyzed by horror. The technique can push vulnerable intellects into permanent madness. Deadly Sight. A tactic that was once extremely rare, even among the Sith, exploded in usage during the last decades of the war. By channeling this ability, a Force user could harness fury and hatred and then project them through an intense glare into a victim. As long as that victim is in the practitioner's range of vision, Deadly Sight has been known to blister skin and vaporize extremities. Morikro. Though it is practiced by some Jedi Masters, it is considered off-limits for Knights. By using Morikro, a Jedi can slow the body functions of another being into mild catatonic or long-term suspended animation. There is still great risk that an untrained user may go too far and accidentally stop a heart from beating. Emerald Lightning. A technique in which a Jedi can spray electric bolts of variable intensity from the hands and fingers. This technique is closely related to the dark side power of the Sith lightning, but it springs from a sense of determined justice and has been studied by some masters under controlled conditions. Its energies can also be contained in a ball of pure kinetic force known as Kinetite. Advanced Lightsaber Techniques. Form 7 Lightsaber Combat, Joyo. Joyo has existed for thousands of years, but is the most controversial of all forms, and most of you will have no need to learn it. Joyo is nicknamed the Way of the Vorsic, but in my view, it is best described as its alternate title, the Furiosity form. Vicious and unpredictable, Form 7 requires a Jedi to attack under the guidance of controlled passion. It is this aspect that has caused the most concerning among the Order, for proper execution of Joyo seemingly puts the Jedi in violation of one of the Code's core precepts. There is no emotion, there is peace. However, Form 7 Masters do not give themselves to emotion blindly. They channel their inner turmoil into a metal forge, which provides the passion to power their raw and furious strikes. A true expert keeps the emotions locked within the forge. Lesser practitioners of the art might allow their emotions to spill out during the battle, poisoning their intentions and drawing them into the fury of the dark side rage. For this reason, Joyo is restricted by the Council. I accept only a handful of students, handpicked according to my personal standards each year. Never again will I permit the widespread use of this form after the events of the last Sith War, when Joyo provided the trigger for Jedi to sink into butchery and join the ranks of the Sith. Form 7 is difficult to master. Its movements are sharp and chaotic and occur in quick bursts. You can drill these sequences into your head through regular practice, but you will not truly be using Joyo until you use excitement, passion, and rage to color your actions. While its attacks are adversary defenses, even the blocks of a Form 3 master, Form 7 leaves its practitioner vulnerable and open to counterattack. Multiple opponents can overwhelm a Joyo master by exploiting a movement's vulnerability. Force shoves and pulls are also effective at rattling a Form 7 defense. Additional lightsaber techniques. As a knight, you should never stop learning. Lightsaber techniques are no different. Every move you perfect only opens pathways to new moves. Even we battle masters are humbled by how little we truly understand. Here are a few of the more advanced moves you should study in your knighthood. Saber throw is a difficult discipline to perfect. Combining the physicality of lightsaber combat with the telekinesis of Force altar, it allows you to hurl a lit saber at a target and call it back to your hand. A saber may be thrown in a pinwheel motion or in a straight line as a spear. Use the Force to help guide the saber's path and extend its range beyond what your strength would normally permit. Many of the Order's best practitioners are stationed on the parapets of the temple as Jedi snipers. Mounted combat is the art of fighting from a saddle. This may involve a speeder bike or an animal such as a Horgoth. Either way, it requires an understanding of how to steer and manage your speed while fighting. You must also learn how to take advantage of your higher elevation relative to ground level targets. Remember that if you are riding a living creature, it may become necessary to calm the beast through the Force, lest it become panicked by the sound and smell of battle. In Trekata, a Jedi can take advantage of one of the lightsaber's unique abilities, the ability to rapidly switch on and off. In passing the blade, a Jedi shuts down the saber to momentarily bypass an enemy's block, then immediately reactivates it for a killing strike. If two combatants have locked their sabers together, a trained Jedi may choose to deactivate his or her saber and throw the enemy off balance. Shokan encourages the Jedi to use the surrounding terrain as a weapon, from seeking the high ground to taking cover over obstacles. An enemy can be driven back into hazards such as active machinery or open pits. I do not consider Shokan a distinct lightsaber form, but some find merit in this style. So Ken is best employed on a Jedi's home territory where the ground is familiar and holds no surprises. Developing your own style. As a Jedi who has reached the rank of Knight, you have received instruction in the forms 1 to 6 combat. By now, you have undoubtedly settled on one that suits your physical strengths as well as your battle philosophy. Some Jedi are content to stay within this framework, and that is admirable. The traditional forms have existed for millennia, and each has many thousands of advocates. Yet, some Jedi may find advantage in a hybrid style that draws upon any or all the forms. Guardians who spend most of their time honing their bodies may choose to combine the strength of Form 5 with the acrobatics of Form 4, while consulars accustomed to the diplomatic style of Form 6 may find it illuminating to study its pure root, Form 3. It is always advised to have one home stance with attacks and parries you know well, a stance you can return to whenever you become disoriented or need to regroup against a grueling enemy. Lightsaber combat can be both physical and mental, as you test your enemy's defenses and adjust your approach. But a duel can also be psychological. Mock is the act of using words to break an opponent's concentration and shatter his or her morale. By urging enemies to surrender or telling them they have no hope of success, a Jedi can end a fight without bloodshed. But be warned, too much taunting can lead a Jedi down the dark path. Every Jedi must find his or her own balance, a method of fighting. If your style is unique and has sufficient complexity, it may one day be recognized as a new subset and be taught to future classes of initiates and Padawans, perhaps even with your name attached to it. Enlisting new members. The Jedi, as you well know, forbid romantic attachment. We do not marry, nor do we breed powerful lineages from our greatest members. How then do we survive from generation to generation, or rebuild our numbers after the decimation of war? The Force supplies the answer. Any being, regardless of homeworld, species, wealth, or social status of his or her family, can be born with the ability to touch the Force. These being a gift, and if we don't teach them how to use it, the Jedi Order is responsible for squandering that gift. In fact, those who don't learn how to harness their talents at a young age may come to view the Force as a curse. On some planets, those who are Force sensitive may be persecuted as demonic magicians, or may become so enarmed with their otherworldly powers that they become exactly the monsters their neighbors fear. Once they have reached such a state, it is difficult to bring them into the light of the Jedi teachings, which in past decades have made them easy marks for the Sith. The responsible use of power takes a lifetime to perfect, and therefore the Jedi Order only rarely accepts members who are older than a few years. Most of you came to the temple as infants. Locating Force-strong newborns is a straightforward process, at least within the Republic's borders. Mandatory blood tests performed at birth record the concentration of midichlorians in an infant's cells, and positive results are forwarded to the Jedi Temple for follow-up. Because midichlorians analysis is not always definitive, particularly among older children or beings with unusual psychologies, special tools or puzzles may be employed instead. These include the training screen, a tool that records a subject's ability to read minds or view images remotely, and the mental maze, a test that demonstrates whether a subject can use rudimentary telekinesis. Misperceptions of the Jedi. The job of a Jedi recruiter can be thankless. While many families are proud to have their offspring chosen by the Force, the practical reality of taking a child away from his or her parents is messy and unpleasant. We Jedi firmly believe that Force-strong beings have a right to receive the best training available, and our way requires shunning emotional commitment, especially towards one's birth family. Yet, something that seems self-evident to us has been characterized as monstrous in the HoloNet. I admit that while recruiters are vital to the continuation of the Order, we don't do much to burnish the Order's reputation. The following are perennial slurs leveled against the Order. As a Jedi Knight, you must do your part to counter those lies, not by arguing, but by setting an example of selflessness and service. The Jedi are sorcerers. Popular in primitive worlds and among adherents of certain religious sects, this belief betrays a misunderstanding of the Force's presence throughout the universe. The Force is a real, demonstrable phenomenon, not a twist of forbidden magic. Through our connection to the Force, the Jedi are the agents of life itself. The Jedi are kidnappers. An all too familiar accusation for Jedi recruiters, this charge springs from the pain of emotional attachment. It is also technically false. Within the Republic, the Jedi Order has the legal authority to take custody of Force sensitives, and some masters have argued that the Force's presence in a child indicates the child's consent to join the Order even before he or she is able to speak. The Jedi are brainwashers. This belief is part due to the secrecy surrounding Jedi training and in part due to the widespread misunderstanding of the so-called Jedi mind trick. Some claim that the Order is responsible for mass hypnosis and mind control. Patent untrue. The Jedi are elitists. It is fashionable to equate the presence of midi-chlorians with genetic superiority, but the Force chose to manifest itself with the symbiosis of our cells. The Force can call anyone and is thus very definition of egalitarian. The history of the Sith. The dark side is the selfish, impulsive energy you feel when you have not set yourself at peace. Members of the Order who give themselves over to the destructive emotions often experience an irreversible spiritual corruption that marks them as a Darksider. Those who follow the rituals of a specific dark side philosophy become Sith. Not all Darksiders are Sith, though. The Sith have proven to be the most persuasive and malevolent power of the past several millennia. At times, they have controlled the majority of the galaxy. The Sith hold fast to a set of beliefs influenced by neurotic magic of the alien species whose name they share, but their core tenets are summarized in the Sith Code. Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion I gain strength. Through strength I gain power. Through power I gain victory. Through victory my chains are broken. The Force shall set me free. The Sith hold that these beliefs represents their willingness to challenge the restriction of the orthodoxy and shake the foundations of power. Yet it is plain that the Sith Code is a selfish one. Every tenet focuses on individual wants and desires. The Jedi know that greatness can only be won through humbling oneself. The Sith settle for quick and easy power by sinking deep into their emotions. The Sith species originating on Korriban and the earliest Darksiders, those who broke away from the Order during the first Great Schism on Tython, shared a similar outlook on power. Eventually, their teachings became so intertwined that Sith became to be described as abhorrent to their beliefs, regardless of the species. The Sith carry red-bladed lightsabers caused by their use of synthetic crystals. These lightsabers serve to both announce their presence and to test their own sabers in battle. The blade of a Sith saber has been known to break the blade of a Jedi saber by overloading its energy matrix. The annihilation of the Sith Order has thankfully put an end to these duels. The Second Great Schism and the Final War. Modern Sith came about after the Great Second Schism and the 100-Year Darkness, a war between Jedi and Darksiders that involved the alchemists' creation of monsters. The victorious Jedi sentenced the surviving Darksiders to banishment. But among the uncharted stars, the exiled Jedi discovered the Sith species, who worshipped death and the angry energies of the dark side. They became the lords of the Sith merging their fallen Jedi culture with the sacrificial rituals of the savages Korriban natives. 2,000 years later, the Lords of the Sith space-mounted an invasion of the Republic. Running wild over Kirik and Coruscant, the Sith blitzed the heart of civilized space before the Jedi could drive them back into exile. This was the first of many wars between the Jedi and Sith. During the Vulture Cataclysm, in the Third Great Schism, the Darksiders influenced by the Sith triggered the obliteration of the entire world. This act led to regular clashes between the Dark and the Light, including the Great Sith War of Exar Kun and the Jedi Civil War that saw the defection of two Jedi champions who became Darth Malak and Darth Revan. The Jedi Order barely survived these conflicts, so only a few centuries later, when war broke out again, the Sith took control of Coruscant, relocating the Jedi to Tython. We have since won back our rightful place in Coruscant. The Fourth Great Schism, which occurred a millennia ago, brought on 1,000 years of fighting, the ascendance of Darth Ruin and the Sith, and the plague that provided the drumbeat for what was truly the Republic's Dark Age. It was a military campaign that nearly brought an end to civilization. Yet, the Army of Light beat the Brotherhood of Darkness at the Battle of Rusun. Those Jedi who sacrificed their lives have transformed the Dark Age into a golden age of peace and bounty. Darth Bane and the end of the Sith. The Sith have been the enemies of the Jedi for thousands of years. Yet, outsiders who viewed them as an inevitability and even necessity, counterbalanced to the light side, were proven wrong after the Battle of Rusun, when the Sith Order crumbled. Although danger still lurks among the stars, the citizens of the Republic need no longer fear the title of Darth. It is ironic that one of their own, Darth Bane, helped bring about the destruction of the Sith. But it is not surprising. It is the Sith way to scratch and claw for power. In the war's last decade, Bane rose to the ranks of the Brotherhood of Darkness to challenge the leadership of Sith Lord Khan. From the Sith prisoners in custody to Akatar, we have learned that many of them considered Bane to be a Sitharian, the culmination of prophecy that foretold the rise of a perfect being. This divination, an inverted mirror of the Jedi prophecy of the Chosen One, reflected the Sith need to cast their hopes upon a savior as the Jedi Army of Light closed in on them. Bane's popularity split the ranks of the Sith Lords, causing them to lose focus and to surrender key ground at Rusun. Ultimately, Lord Khan knew he could not win and triggered a third thought bomb. This unspeakable dark side weapon scorched the surface of Rusun and drew the spirits of every combatant, Jedi and Sith, into a bottomless singularity. Bane died with the rest of the Sith Lords on Rusun, proving that not even the Sitharian could sustain an order founded on aggression and greed. Though we Jedi must continue to resist the temptation of the dark side, it is good for cause to cheer that the enemies of life have at last been vanquished. Other dark side organizations. Fallen Jedi and those who hold the views of the Sith are only two types of followers of the dark side. There are other paths that can corrupt those who are force sensitive. Just as there are rival organizations to the Jedi, there exist cults and sects whose sole purpose is the exploitation of the dark side for selfish means. The Sorcerers of Tund are believed to be descendants of pure-blooded Sith exiled from Korriban long ago. Deep in the Outer Rim's centrality, they practice a secretive and malevolent style of force manipulation, which they characterize as spellcasting. The Council has tried to recruit them, but without success. The force-using tradition of the Jarfequin extend to the earliest centuries of the Republic. Their shamans believe that the dark side can manifest itself only through elaborate blood rituals. But removing these rites can actually block a Jargifson's adaptability to use the Force. The Macrosa Order originated among the House Maketi in the Tapanese sector. Its power dark side practitioners have persisted in the subsequent centuries as outspoken challengers to Jedi teachings. The Bladeborn are a splinter faction of the Sith who believe in the superiority of edged weapons as a means of focusing the dark side. Their tools include traditional lightsabers as well as exotic vibroblades such as the Sith Tremor Sword. Early in the last war, the Dark Underlord raised an army of Black Knights. Though they fell in battle to the Jedi, the Black Knights have risen again and again over the centuries and may not be entirely silent even today. Threats to Jedi teachings. The post-war Republic Reformation has reshaped the Jedi Order. We have learned much from the previous 1,000 years, from the fall of Phineas and the war he ignited to our final victory at Ruusan. The loss of so many Jedi and Sith seductions has prompted the enactment of new rules governing Jedi teachings. The Council no longer exhibits tolerance toward heretics who believe they have found a superior path that runs counter to the Jedi Order's 24,000 years of accumulated wisdom. The Sith and fallen Jedi are not under discussion here, for their evil is apparent to all. But alternate philosophies can be just as tragically misguided. At the forefront of these philosophies are the relatives, those who argue that the dark side does not exist. Many Padawans seem to go through this similar phase, and as their masters, you must set them straight or they may carry their misperceptions into adulthood. These radicals do not deny the existence of dark side powers, but maintain that the darkness only manifests in the mind of the individual force wielder. The dangers in this philosophy are clear. Those who believe that any action can be taken so long as one's intent is pure soon believe their intent is always right. The so-called Grey Jedi have been with us since the beginning. Although they do not break with the Jedi orthodoxy concerning the dark side, they bristle when asked to take orders from the Council. Grey Jedi make compromises, cut corners, and hide their actions from scrutiny, all under the assumption that their experience makes them authority on policy. They are mavericks who are difficult to control, but can be valued members of the Order after they have been persuaded to follow the established hierarchy. The Lost is a term applied to Jedi Masters who have resigned from the Order for physiological reasons. Although few in number, the Lost represent a failing of the Jedi to keep our greatest thinkers within our fold. Their loss is our shame. Taking on a Padawan learner. Although it is not mandatory, at some point during your knighthood, you may feel the desire to pass your knowledge on to another Jedi youngling. As a Jedi Knight, you are encouraged to heed the Force's call, particularly if you sense it leading you towards mentorship. Aside from recruitment, this is the most important action you could take to ensure that our Order remains vibrant and strong. Taking a Padawan apprentice will complete the cycle that first brought you to knighthood, and if concluded successfully, will elevate you to the rank of Jedi Master. If you wish to select a student, visit the temple. Each year during the apprentice tournaments, our older initiates demonstrate their fitness with lightsabers, but you are free to visit any time to observe classes or to question the temple's instructors. Remember that you once underwent the same process, so as you experience it from the other side, be mindful of what you felt and learned those many years ago. Your apprentice should be much like you in temperament and outlook, but not too much alike. The teaching process is bidirectional, and you should expect to learn much from your student. A fresh perspective and a second set of eyes will help you succeed on missions that would have been impossible for you alone. Don't forget that your Padawan has the benefit of recent temple teachings, which you may have never studied. Keep an open mind, and you will feel the development of your shared force bond. Above all, do not be overprotective. Your Padawan may be young, but he or she is a Jedi. Better that you should lose your Padawan to tragedy than to avoid danger altogether. Every member of the Jedi Order is prepared to die in the service of the Republic. Any lesser commitment is selfish and waste. While taking on a Padawan is a step most Jedi will accept, some will choose to never have an apprentice. Not all Jedi possess the patience for what is a full-time commitment that can last a decade or more. Still, others may have the desire, but do not find a Padawan that suits their pace and outlook. Meditate intensely before making a decision. It is far better to pass over this opportunity than to accept it out of duty. A poor fit with a Padawan will lead to instructions, squander your time, and leave your apprentice ill-prepared to face the trials. Becoming a Master and Grand Master. The rank of Jedi Master is the highest formal recognition one can achieve in the Jedi Order. It is not a requirement, nor does it mark the end of your journey. Jedi who have attained this rank are the fewest in membership and have outnumbered by even the younglings. Masters are known for their mentorship of younger Jedi. Taking on and training a Padawan into knighthood is one step towards attaining the rank of Master. Many Masters take on one Padawan after another, selecting an apprentice immediately following the previous apprentice's passing of the trials. However, not all knights will choose this path. Jedi Knights who have shown extraordinary service to the Republic are sometimes appointed Masters through the special dispensation of the High Council. In addition, Jedi Knights may elect to undergo a modified, more challenging version of the Jedi Knight trials, which, if passed, has often been accepted as a mark of mastery. As a Jedi Master, your missions will not fundamentally change. You are still responsible for aiding the needy and extending the Order's reach throughout the Republic. Yet, because your Jedi skills will have deepened since your first solo mission as a knight, you may also wish to consider a teaching role that suits your talents. The Temple and our satellite academies have need of Force philosophers, battle masters, historians, and scientists, as well as experts in the particular obsessions of the Jedi Sentinels. Grand Master is a title bestowed upon the greatest of all masters, those who have been recognized as such by the members of the Order and ratified through the unanimous decision of the High Council. In the past, several masters have held the title simultaneously and in essence created an elite guild. Currently, only a single Jedi can be appointed Grand Master at any one time. I am quite happy to hold the title, so I trust you younger ones will indulge me if I don't announce plans to relinquish it any time soon. Transcending death. One day you will die, in battle or in your sleep, having lived the noble life of a Jedi. None can state with clarity what awaits after you become one with the Force, but your journey into the netherworld will be instantaneous. Some sages among the Wills believe otherwise, holding out the possibility of an existence in this world even after Jedi have shed their physical forms. Existing in luminous beings, such Jedi could retain the identities they held before their death, but they would be unable to interact with the physical world. However, the idea of this existence stems from stories and theories, not reality. Though we believe that all things are possible through the Force, as physical beings we are grounded, and our understanding has limits. Instead, think of these stories as metaphors for the Jedi Code's final precept. There is no death, there is the Force. The end.